On this episode, we have on Bezhan, who is an Afghan translator who wrote a book called Afghan Translator, A Hero or a Traitor. And I think this is probably one of the most compelling conversations I've ever had on a podcast or not. It was absolutely incredible. He is absolutely a hero and just a fascinating story. His journey from Afghanistan, working on a military base as a translator, to coming to America. It is just absolutely incredible, and it will probably make everyone who listens to it feel like a complete lazy POS. I know it did for me. He's just an incredible person. It was an honor to have him on. You'll notice a few times through the podcast, whether you're listening or watching, it'll go dark and quiet. And so we actually had to block out a lot of information that we talked about to keep his family safe. His family's in hiding from the Taliban, still in Afghanistan, trying to come over to America. And so we had to block out a few things for his family's safety, but just an insane conversation. I also want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Rambler Sparkling Water, and hope you guys enjoy.
Want us to talk about for the safety of your brother?
I would say I wouldn't name. So
No, okay.
I wouldn't name anyone, like even they, including the Americans that I work with them. So I can probably give name like as a nickname.
Okay.
Because when I was writing this book, I still have contact with my supervisor. I told him like, hey, I want to name you in the book, and he told me like, no, just name me Dave.
Okay.
Although his name is different, so he said just call me Dave.
Can I see one of the copies?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, we definitely don't want to. Thank you very much. We definitely don't want to ask any questions that you don't want us to. So.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and Afghan Voice of America, there's the TV. So the Afghan version of them, they reach out to me and they wanted to interview me.
Oh, nice.
I asked them like, heck, okay, I'm available, but in what language you gonna interview me?
Mm-hmm.
They said in Farsi, which is our language. I told her like, no, sorry,
Yeah.
because I don't want Afghanistan to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna put my family at risk.
Wow. So, Bezhan, am I saying that correctly?
Bezhan.
Bezhan.
Yeah.
Bezhan. Okay. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. You have a book that is out now called The Afghan Translator, A Hero or a Traitor.
Yes.
And it says on here, my journey from Afghanistan to the United States of America, 2001 to 2021 achievements, Afghan Translator challenges in Afghanistan and the United States. That sounds fascinating.
Thank
I have
you.
not had the opportunity to read it just yet, but I'm really excited to have you on with us this morning. And I know personally an embarrassing little amount about the Middle East and all the conflicts we've had. And so if you don't mind, I'd love, before we dive into the book, if you could just give us your history, some baseline information, talk to me like I know nothing, because I might just not know anything.
So Afghanistan is a country which is in Asia right now. So it's a beautiful country. It is a mountainous country. It has a beautiful nature. Like it has a lot of good people over there. Like the only problem in Afghanistan is I would say politics. Because of the politics, we have war, and we had war in the past 50 years. There was 1 million people died because of that war, and it's still the situation in Afghanistan is not good.
Which war are you referring to? Where 1 million people died?
So before America, the Taliban war, the Mujahideen war, the Russian war, and right now again the Taliban war. So we had war in the past, and we still have war. And who knows what's going to happen in the future. Like maybe another group is going to fight against Taliban, which I believe they are fighting right now. And a lot of people are dying again. So it's a beautiful country. Americans were there, and they were always telling me oh my God, this is a beautiful country. Why there's war in this beautiful country? They were like, look at those mountains. We want to come and climb on those mountains. This is beautiful. We don't have this kind of a mountain in Afghanistan, in America. So it's a beautiful country. People it has 36 million people in Afghanistan. We have very delicious foods. Very delicious food. If you guys haven't tried Afghan food, I definitely recommend try Afghan food.
What about here locally? Is there any good restaurants you'd recommend?
There's only just one recently opened. They call it Afghan Village.
Okay.
It's in North Limar, very close to you guys. They have very good food.
Okay.
But maybe I can prepare. I can ask my wife, because what we cook at home is different than restaurant. Definitely.
I'd love to try it.
Yeah, definitely. Why not? I can arrange it, and you guys can come, because I did arrange in the past for my coworkers, and they were crazy. So we speak different languages. So the two formal language in Afghanistan is Dari and Pashto.
So there's two main languages
Yes.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work? It's like throughout the country. If you're it's just regionally, or how do those languages split up?
Yes, it's regionally. So
Okay.
like one side of Afghanistan speaks one language, one side another language, one side both of them. But people that mainly they can communicate with each other. For example, English and Spanish. So right now in Texas, I'm seeing like English and Spanish. So that's the way Afghanistan works. But I speak Dari, which is kind of close to Persian. So I speak that language. I can communicate in Pashto, which is another language, but I cannot speak fluently the way I speak our language. And so it's like a country which suffered like in the past 50 years. Like million people are dying just because of a war which has no logic behind it. Like people just make religion an excuse, an example like, hey, because of religion we have to kill Russians. Because of the religion we have to kill Americans. Because of the religion we have to kill anyone who work with Americans. So when I like see about Afghanistan history, I feel so bad. Like why like a group of people, they're using innocent people for their own benefits.
That's terrible.
Yes.
That's so sad. So where does your story begin? I mean, what was early childhood like? I mean, how did you end up as a translator? What was that process like?
So I was born in Afghanistan, and when I was a kid, Americans came to Afghanistan. 2001, I was like 11-year-old boy, like
Wow.
Didn't know anything about anything. So I was just playing around, like going to school. But my father is educated person, so he always wanted us to learn and to study, to read books. Like on the like festivals when we had, like for example, like Eid, which is like a kind of a Christmas thing. So like those kind of festivals, or we had New Year, my father was giving us book as a gift. Like, hey, you need to read this book. It's a good story.
What a good father. That's great.
Yes, he was always like asking us that we need to study. And we were like busy learning about like our language, learning about science, mathematics, all these things. And like my father wanted like us, all his 4 kids, to be educated people. Because he knew the value of education. He was like, our country is backwarded, or our country is not developed, our country is suffering because we are lacking education. So that's why he was pushing us to study, including my sister. Like my father wasn't against my sister, like she cannot go to school. My sister right now is a doctor just because of my father. And then I started like learning English. My father enrolled me in a private place, like, hey, go there and study. I started learning English, and I was able to speak and write, read, because I learned English as a knowledge. Then I started teaching it back for people. I was a teacher over there, and I was teaching it back for people. I had thousands of students in Afghanistan, and I taught for like 6 years.
Wow.
And then once I was like at the college, I noticed like Americans are hiring. I never wanted to be a translator. I never had any plan to be a translator, because my mom wouldn't let me to be a translator, because she was like, it's risky. Anything can happen to you. You will go like missions. So she didn't want me. Then I was like, I needed a job. I needed a salary, because I was old, so to make some income. So I applied, and they called me for interview.
And so were you living in Afghanistan at this time?
Yes.
And you realized that Americans were coming over, and they needed a translator, and so you
Yes.
applied for the role there? Okay.
Yes, I applied, and once I applied, they called me like for interview. I did an interview, then I did another round of interview. They did some background checks, everything, and they hired me. They gave me the position as a translator.
So who hired you? I mean, were you applying to like the U.S. military, or what was that process
No,
like?
it was a private U.S. company in Afghanistan. So it was a company that couple of retired special forces, like officers, majors, they were working over there. So the mission was for that company to train Afghan National Army, the engineering and combat skills.
So who was paying that company? Was that like
America?
America was
Yes.
the government was
so
funding
it was a project,
that? Okay.
like it was a project that company took from America, and America was paying them, and they were paying us. And I got the job. So when I worked, I was so happy, like, oh my God, I have a good job. I'm making friends. I'm working with Americans. And the all year that I studied English, I learned English, and I taught English. So now I'm using it to make money. And it's also a good service for Afghanistan. Like I'm helping Afghan National Army to be strong, because Americans were training. If I'm not there, who's gonna transfer their knowledge? So I was so happy, but I didn't know the outcome is gonna be bad. I didn't have any idea.
Which branch of the military were you working directly with? You said Special Forces.
Yes, they were
Green
retired.
Berets?
Yes, they were retired special forces.
Okay.
Yes,
Were they contractors?
they were contractors. Yes.
Okay.
They had multiple contracts from the government, and they had multiple projects in different provinces of Afghanistan.
Okay.
And they were training thousands of Afghan National Army, the engineering, and for example, the HVAC, masonry, plumbing, like all these kind of trades.
They were even teaching the trades like plumbing and all of that. Wow.
Yes, they were
How
teaching.
cool. So at that time, in Afghanistan, what was the overall feel towards America? I mean, it seems like some people loved Americans, most maybe didn't. I mean, what was the feeling at that point?
I would say I divide people of Afghanistan in three parts. So one who had problem with Americans, and those are the ones that they had problem with me as well. And they were not Taliban. They were like public, because they lacked education. They were just listening to someone who was talking anything. They were like, oh, maybe he's right. He's like people in Afghanistan were talking bad about Americans, and they were listening to them. So those people were not Taliban, or maybe they were Taliban. I don't know. But even the public, they had problem with Americans and with me. Another group is like people that didn't have problem with Americans, which is like me, my father. Like we were like, no, they came here, they're spending $1 billion, they're making Afghanistan a good country, a stable country. So why we should have problem with them? They didn't invade Afghanistan, they didn't take Afghanistan by force. So right now we have our own president, we have our own parliament, we have our own people, or like in the management or in the administration. So we didn't have, this was another type group of people. The third group, people like they didn't care. If it was American, it was Russian, they just needed food, that's it. They didn't care who was running the office, they didn't care who was in Afghanistan, they didn't care about anything.
They just want to survive.
They just want to survive, because they were so poor, and they didn't have any idea what was happening in the country, and they just needed food, they just needed a job.
If you were to put like a percentage on those three groups, what would it be? I mean, where do you think was the largest percent between those groups?
It's a very difficult question.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult question, but I would say like 30% that they were against Americans, maybe 40% that they were happy with Americans, and the rest, like, people didn't care.
Okay, very interesting. It's hard for me, being born and raised in America, to wrap my head around something like the Taliban. I mean, we hear about them, you hear about like terrorist groups and this and that, but we don't live with that. I've never grown up with that concern. And so I was like, as a young man living in Afghanistan, I mean, how do you look at the Taliban? What is the Taliban? Do you have cousins that ended up going to the Taliban? Like, how does that even work exactly? Or as a child, what was your views on the Taliban?
So I would say Taliban is a group of people. Their leaders are very smart, very educated. Their leaders, they know everything. But they're using innocent people, uneducated people for their own benefit. So what they say, for example, they say our Quran say like you have to kill an American. You have to kill someone who's not Muslim. And those people, like the innocent people, they cannot read Quran. They don't know, they cannot understand it. So they believe them. They say, okay, whatever this guy is saying, he's right. So we have to kill Americans. They came in here, they invaded our country. The same thing, like Russia invaded our country and they were against them. So I would say Taliban are a political strong group. Like their leaders know everything, but they're soldiers. There are some innocent people, like they have no idea about religion, they have no idea about humanity, they have no idea about anything. They just listen to someone and they brainwash that way, and they start killing people.
So you as a young man in Afghanistan, it sounds like you had a wonderful upbringing with your father and gave you the ability to not get sucked into that. But did you have friends or colleagues or people that you knew personally that would go into the Taliban and you're trying to say, hey, this isn't
childhood
right?
friends or neighbors, like people you knew personally
So,
growing up?
as I said, people called me traitor. So it wasn't just Taliban. So they were calling me traitor. They definitely wanted to kill me. I was receiving death threats from them.
Holy cow.
But
when you started working as a translator?
Yes, when I started working with Americans. But another portion of people, they were also calling me a traitor. They were not Taliban, but they were calling me a traitor because they had that Taliban view, like, okay, this guy's working with Americans killing people in Afghanistan, so he's a traitor. He's providing that opportunity for Americans to kill Afghans. And even they were calling me a traitor. When I was walking on the roads, sometimes I was hearing like, hey, traitor.
Holy cow, just people driving by or
Yes.
holy cow.
So it was a very like a situation like I cannot even express like what kind of like feeling I had on that time when someone calls you, hey, traitor.
And yeah, I mean, were you scared for your life at the time? I mean,
Of
were you
course,
just
yes.
nervous 24/7?
Yes, I didn't have any freedom. I couldn't go out. Like I was just inside home, like work home, work home. I couldn't go out, especially like in dark. Once
Wow.
the sun was once there was sunset, I was just inside home.
Did the contractors you were working with, did they provide you with security or weapons or anything to defend
No.
yourself?
So like when I saw the job, there was no like promise that they're gonna take me to America. There was no promise that they're gonna provide me gun. So they were providing security for me when I was with them.
But when you went home,
Yeah,
you were on your own?
Yeah, once I was out of base, I was by my own.
What are the gun laws like in Afghanistan?
Anyone can carry gun.
Okay, so were you able to carry a gun to
No,
and from work?
I didn't have it because like my father would never allow us to have gun. He would never allow us to touch a gun because
Wow.
he was like touch a pen instead of a gun.
Do you still feel the same way?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say like pen is much stronger than a gun. Like if you have knowledge, if you can talk with someone instead of killing or fighting is the best way. So you have to talk with them. And that's how I tried to talk with people. Like, hey, why are you calling me a traitor? Let's sit and let's talk. But I never could win that debate.
I was curious, did that ever
I
work?
could never win debate.
Because they would just get mad and not have any points? Like they didn't want to actually have that conversation? Or
Like-
were they just so hard-headed and brainwashed you couldn't convince them?
It was so hard. It was so hard because they were brainwashed. Even like inside the base, some Afghan soldiers, they had the same idea.
Really?
Yeah, even inside the base,
That's a
some
big
Afghan
problem.
soldiers. Yeah, some Afghan soldiers that they were born in villages and they grown up in the villages and then they joined Afghan National Army. They were not Taliban. They were fighting against Taliban, but they had that kind of idea like, hey, these Americans came here to change our religion. They want to convert us to Christianity. They want to convert us to something different. So that's kind of belief they had. And always I wanted to talk with them like, hey, why? But I couldn't win the debate.
Oh.
Even like I want to share a story. I don't want to go any other place, but I want to share a story. So one time, Americans with Afghans, they were trying to build a wall with the blocks, the way this wall is.
Mhm.
They were building a wall.
Will you scoot the mic just to the edge of the table there?
Yes.
There we go. That's
Sorry.
perfect. You're fine.
So they were building a wall, and like it was a very hot weather. Like people were sweating because they were working so hard. Everybody was working. I was under the sun. Like we were just working together as a team. And then Americans, they went to their cars and they brought multiple cases of water. So there was a rule inside the base, like Afghan soldiers, they cannot touch any American belonging unless they give the permission. So once American brought the water, they asked me like, hey, can you ask all the Afghan soldiers that if they were thirsty, they can have water? And everybody started like coming and getting a water because Americans give permission. But some Afghans, they refused to take water. Some Afghan soldiers. I tried to give it to them like, hey, have a water. And they were like, no, I'm not going to drink that. I was like, why? They were like, oh, because this water is mixed with a pork. Pork is something like prohibited to eat in our religion. They were like, this water is mixed with pork, so Americans is making us to drink it. I was like, I don't see anything mixed with this. It's a pure water. They were like, no, you don't know that. They are so smart. I tried to convince them like, hey, do you see anything inside the water? I don't see it. Do you have any special glasses, something? But they were trying to give me like reasons. And then my supervisor came and was like, hey, what's going on? I told him like, I don't want to share it to you. If I share it to you, you're not going to stop laughing. He was like, come on, share with me. I told him like, this guy is not drinking your water because he believes you mix pork inside the water. He got the water bottle from me and he asked me, show me the label which is written made by this country. So I found him, I showed him, okay, this is in our language which mentions like made by Afghanistan. So he got that thing and he pointed to Afghan soldier. He asked him, like, can you read it? Then I translate to him like, can you read it? He was like, yes. I asked him, read it. So he read it was made in Kabul, which is the capital of Afghanistan. Then American said, we didn't bring this water from America. We bought it from Afghanistan, so from an Afghani company. So why you believe like I mixed pork with it? But even American, he couldn't win the debate.
They still wouldn't drink it.
No.
Wow.
They
Holy
refused to
cow.
drink.
Man, it sounds like an education issue is really the core of what so much is happening over there.
Yes, wish in the past 20 years Afghanistan spent a lot of like hours, money in education. They did, but wasn't enough.
Do you feel that it's improved any since the time that you were there?
Yes, of course. Like Afghanistan changed a lot. That's when like I feel like when I observe Americans, they think like only killing, bombing, suicide attack happened in the past 20 years. They don't know like a lot of good things happen in Afghanistan because of America. One of them is this thing, education. Afghanistan really changed. Like if you compare like current generation with the past 20 years generation, like 2001 generation, it's completely different. Today, people of Afghanistan, they have access to technology, they have higher education, they have masters, they have doctorate degrees. They are like inventing some stuff, they are like creating some stuff, they're creative. Why? Because of America.
Wow.
America changed. I believe, I know like not all Afghanistan changed, but majority, the young generation, most of them that they were living in the cities, they changed. They traveled like outside of Afghanistan and they saw the world. And like once you travel outside, you're gonna see the world and like your idea is gonna change. Like even for example, 20 years ago, Taliban were breaking TVs because they were saying like TV is not something like permitted in our religion. They were breaking TVs, radios, everything. Now we have TVs in Afghanistan. Now we have media in Afghanistan. Now we have a lot of YouTubers that they like have conversation with Taliban, even with Taliban every day. So why TV was something not permitted in our religion 20 years ago, but it's not, but it's now.
They were just trying to control the information.
Even Taliban
Wow.
change. I would say even Taliban, they know like, okay, if we break the TV right now, people are different. They're going to protest. They're going to stand against us. And they're going to fight. They're like, hey, why TV is something not permitted in our religion? Bring me. So
That's a very interesting perspective that America's done a lot of good there, because our media portrays a completely different story.
Yes.
And so for us, that's awesome news, but shocking.
Yeah. So I would say like the past 20 years, it was people say like, oh, we wasted 20 years. No, it wasn't a waste. It's going to be a waste if the world leaves Afghanistan the way it is right now. If the world forgets Afghanistan, we're gonna lose all those 20 years of achievements day by day.
And I know here more recently there's been, I don't pay attention to the media too much, but I know that, we quickly kind of pulled out what remaining soldiers and resources we had over there. How do you feel that transition went in the last, couple of years with America just kind of pulling out all of a sudden?
So I would say America is a great country. So they did great things in Afghanistan directly and indirectly. For me, the worst thing America did in Afghanistan was pulling out the troops without no plan. So they were just what they did, like, okay guys, we're leaving, goodbye. And they left people hopeless. Like they created panic. And people were scared because we knew like we needed America. I would say that's a shame for such a great country to do.
How do the Afghanistan people feel? Like, how do you feel about the Biden administration pulling out the way they did with zero plan, zero thought?
It was horrible. Like when I heard the news, like Afghanistan is collapsed to Taliban, I was shocked. I was working from home that day. I was shocked. Like, oh my God, what happened? We lost 20 years of achievements. Basically, now America is great again because of Taliban is great again because of America. 20 years ago, Taliban were fighting with AK-47. Now they have tanks, helicopters. They have the best ammunition.
Yeah, we left a bunch of resources and supplies there when we pulled out.
That's why, like, if there was a plan, it wouldn't happen.
And so I did hear about, us leaving behind all of this tanks and all of this military equipment. Who got that? I mean, did the Taliban actually come and get all of that equipment
Yes.
that we...
Yes.
So we just left it, and the Taliban that we've been fighting for 20 years came and took all of our tanks.
Yes, so
Holy
like
cow.
they were like with Afghan National Army, right? So it's a politic thing. I like if I talk about like why Afghanistan collapsed, it's gonna go to politics, which I don't want to talk. But I still believe it was the way Afghanistan collapsed to Taliban was a plan.
You think it was intentional for our government leaving them all of our weapons?
I wouldn't say for America, but there was someone behind it, like America and like Taliban needs to take over Afghanistan again, because when in our city Mazar Sharif there was war, and when I was looking at the news, like people are dying, like people are like Taliban fighting. There was war in Afghanistan. When I was calling my family and friends, like, wait, what's going on? They were like, there's not even a gunshot.
Really?
I was like, okay, but news is saying something different. They were like, maybe, I don't know, but there's no gunshot. Taliban came, took over our city without even a gunshot.
Holy cow. So do you get frustrated with seeing media news in America and how they describe the Middle East compared to what you actually
Yes.
know? I mean, how wrong is our media for what you've seen here recently compared to reality?
So media always want to have a breaking news. They always want to have a bad breaking news, like something bad, and they just want to post it as a breaking news because they want people's attention. They don't want to talk about the good things. And I reach out to some media like, hey guys, I have some stuff written in this book that every American deserves to know. They were not interested to cover my story because my story is not a breaking news for them.
That's so silly. And for me, I think breaking good news should be so
Yes.
much more highlighted. It's so frustrating.
Yes, like they always want to like point people toward bad things happening, not toward good things happening. Like so even right now, when I look at the social media and I follow some pages of news. When I look some newses, I like laugh or like, is this a news? They say breaking news and there's something written. And I was like, this is not a news. This is not something people need to know. They can talk about some good things. They can educate people.
Wow, how frustrating. Let's get back to your story. So you took the job as a translator for the company. Sounds like at first you were excited, and then very quickly you were getting death threats. And so let's keep down your journey from there. And so you took the job. You were helping translate. You know, what progressed after that?
So when I took the job, I was so happy that I'm making dollar. Because
Even with the death threats, you were still happy?
No, at the beginning. At the
At the
beginning,
beginning, yeah.
At the beginning, I didn't have any death threat. I was like, oh my God, I'm making dollar. Like $100 is a lot of money in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
I was making more than that, like thousands. I was like, oh my God, I'm very rich. I can have like a lot of money. And if I keep working with them for a couple of years, I'm going to have a lot of money. And I can help people. Well, like poor people. There's a lot of poor people in Afghanistan. And I was so excited. I was so happy. But slowly, I noticed like what I'm doing is not going to have a good outcome. People, as I said, start calling me traitor. People start questioning me about my job. Like even my friends, they were like, "Hey, why you took that job?" I was like, "Okay, why I shouldn't? It's a job. So I'm helping Afghan National Army. Don't look only Americans. Look at the Afghan National Army. Those people, we want them to be strong enough so they can fight against Taliban. So if I'm not there, who's gonna transfer this knowledge?" But slowly I started receiving phone calls. Like some people, like they were talking Pashto language, and they were like wanted to kill me because they wanted my death to be a statement for other Afghans that they were supporting Americans.
So they were calling your personal phone to
Yes.
give you death threats.
And I was sharing with my supervisor, like, hey, I received a phone call today, and someone was saying this kind of sentences to me, and he wanted to kill me.
How would you respond to these death threats?
So I was quiet. So I didn't want to like do anything. I was just blocking the number, and I was sharing with two people, with my father and with my supervisor, because my supervisor was like kind of friend with me. We worked with each other, and we were sharing with each other like our stories, our family stories, and and he was telling me like, I know that they already knew like I'm receiving death threats.
Wow.
They were like, okay, just be careful whenever you go out. Don't tell people like you're working as a translator. Tell people that you're working something else. Don't tell like you're teaching English or like something else. Don't say like you're working with us. And when I shared with my father, like, hey, I'm scared. I don't know like who's following me. When I walk on a road, if someone is walking toward that road, I feel like that person is following me, although maybe he's not. And my father said, don't be scared. When someone wants to do a big thing, he's going to face the challenges. And this is one of your challenges. You're doing a big thing. You're helping Afghanistan. And in a situation like people are against Americans. So keep doing what you're doing.
Was he proud of you for taking that job?
Yes.
Yes.
He was so happy. Even he asked me that I need to take my brother with me. So my younger brother, he's like 1.5 years younger than me. And my father said, if they're hiring, take your brother as well. I took my brother as well. So we were hiring another time for another round. I took my brother and he started working with me.
Wow.
And I had a couple more friends that they were working with me. So after because the reason like my phone number was distributed in public was not just I was a translator. Because when I started working as a translator for a couple months, Americans, they promoted me as a coordination manager. Like I was managing all the translators for that company.
How many translators from Afghanistan were there that you managed?
So we had different projects in different provinces. So each province had like 10 to 12 or 15, 18 translators. Okay. And I was hiring them as well. So how was the process? Like American was, okay, we have a project over here. I need you to find me 10 translators. And I was looking for people. I was interviewing them. I was getting their IDs, everything. And I was bringing to American, okay, this is the guy I want to bring in. He was like, okay, do the paperwork and bring him in.
Wow.
And that's how my phone number got distributed to public.
So what were you, at the early stages, and you were you helping translate, maybe where you're still more boots on the ground, translating or instead of managing, what were you doing? I mean, you said plumbing and different things. Were you standing there with like an American soldier holding a gun and you're translating how to pull the trigger and how to load, or are you, when it gets to plumbing stuff, were you talking about how to connect pipes? I mean, what were you actually on a finite level translating?
Yeah, so we had different classes like plumbing, masonry, carpentry, electrical, HVAC, and combat.
Wow,
so there'd be like
trades.
Yeah, all the trades we had over there. Like Americans were training. Each class had an American advisor.
Wow.
So that American advisor was training like probably the class size was like 200, 250 students. So it depended. Like sometimes 50 students, sometimes 200 students. And they were training those soldiers that trade. And each American advisor had one translator. Each American. And all those American advisors, they had a manager, program manager, which was my supervisor. So we both were not teaching anything. We both were managing all of them, like all Americans and all Afghans, all the lesson, curriculum, talking with the Afghanistan National Army commanders, like in the engineering commander, like all those people. Some like Germans, when some Germans were coming, so my supervisor were communicating with him in English, or some Afghans were coming. We were attending meetings, talking, because Americans were also supplying thousands of dollars of like stuff for them. For example, in carpentry, they were providing different type of saw, lumber, nails, screws, like a lot of like I would say like each time there would be like 20 to 30 containers.
I had no idea that we were doing that. That's wonderful to hear. Do you think that Americans at that time did a good job of educating? I mean, was it translated pretty well? I mean, was the message well received as far as did they actually learn these skill sets?
Yes, they really learned.
Yeah.
So we had some practical projects that the Americans were asking Afghans, like, hey, you have to build it. And the project was not only just Americans will keep teaching. So the first round, Americans taught Afghanistan National Army. Then they pick up some students as like future teachers. So next round of class, so that Afghan was teaching and American was supervising. So Afghan officer was teaching Afghan National Army, and what I was doing, or what my coworkers were doing, we were translating whatever he was saying to American. So American could correct him if he's wrong, or he can add something. So that's how we work. So, but one time I taught with my American supervisor HVAC. So we taught HVAC for like I would say 3 months. So one of the the HVAC supervisor, he couldn't come to the base. He was still stuck in America, but class started and he didn't have an HVAC class. My manager, he was like HVAC professional, so he was like, okay, let me teach it. And he started teaching it and I was translating. And it was very difficult, to be honest. The translation is not easy. People say like, translating is an easy job. Like you can translate whatever someone says. No, it's not easy job. It's a very difficult. At the beginning, I was struggling to understand Americans because they were telling me like, hey, what's up? I thought like, okay, what's up means like, what's happening? And I was explaining to him like, nothing. Then American told me, okay, what's up means how are you as well. Like when I say, hey, what's up means, hey, how are you? Mm-hmm. So you have to answer like, I'm fine or I'm not fine. Like this is something, like I want to give an example. So there's a lot of words in English which has different meaning. But when we add them in a sentence, it has another meaning. For example, the word ass, ASS, means butt. But Americans use a lot in their language, like which has different meaning. For example, they say, what a big ass car. If I translate this based on my English experience, I would say that car has a big trunk.
And I could only imagine when you get into the trades. I didn't realize, to be honest, I had no idea we did that. I knew there was some education, but I thought it was mainly military focused. And so to hear that we were actually doing carpentry and plumbing as a builder, I mean, I love hearing that. But one of the hardest things about building and all of that is there's a whole set of vocabulary that comes with it. So even in the English language, talking to other Americans, when I'm trying to educate someone about how systems work in a home, there's a bunch of words that are very specific just to that, and there can't be a direct translation for a lot of those, I'm assuming, and so that had to have been very difficult.
Yeah, for example, like the word saw. So Americans, they had different types of saw, like reciprocal saw. I forgot the names. Like there was a lot of saw. Maybe you guys can name them. And we didn't have any saw. I was like, okay, we call saw in our language ara. We were like, okay, the meaning for this thing is ara. But what should I name this thing? Different saw. There were like 20 saws. I didn't know what to name them. So what we did in the first class, so I asked all Afghan soldiers to come and sit with me, and we have to give each of them a name.
So you just named them.
We have to create a name. So we create a name based on the description. Okay, what this saw does? Okay, it does like this kind of cutting, and we were giving that kind of name because we were also translating the textbooks. So we wanted to know, okay, what we have to put over there. And sometimes, like even soldiers didn't have any idea what we have to name them. So what I was doing, I was taking pictures and I was going to the town to a carpentry store. And I was asking that guy, an educated person who cannot read and write, I was asking him like, hey, what do you name this? Whatever he was naming, I was, okay, this is the name I was writing.
Did you name anything after yourself?
No.
Oh, come on. Let's set some timelines here. I think was this time frame, like what year was it when you first got hired?
2011.
Okay. When, again, this is to show my ignorance here, but when did the Iraq War start? I don't know what year that was that the Americans even first went over there.
Iraq, I think, I don't know. I don't remember as well.
I guess Afghanistan. Like when did Americans start really?
2001.
2001 is when they started.
I think Iraq was closer to 2007.
Yes, I think it was after Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah, 2001 was Afghanistan. And the translators that they worked between 2001 until like 2012, those translators, they were on a very risky mission, because during that time, Americans, they were fighting with Talibans, like direct. And those translators, they were going on missions, they were sleeping in tanks, like a lot of them died in bomb explosions. I have some friends, they were like those kind of combat translators. But translators that they work after 2012, they were inside the base mostly. Because on that time, America were not fighting with Taliban directly. They were like advising Afghan soldiers to fight or how to fight.
And excuse me, you just said it, but you started in 2011?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the reason, like my mom was against me to join Americans before that, because she was like, okay, you're going to go for mission for 2 weeks, no phone, nothing. I don't know what's going to happen to you if you're going to come back alive. So she was not letting me go. But once I got this job, I told my mom, look, okay, it's inside the base. I'm going to stay with Americans inside an Afghan base. It's a big base, so no risk, nothing. And I convinced her. Then I told her, okay, if I don't take this job, there's no other opportunity for me. I need to make money. And she was convinced.
How did she feel about the death threats? Did you tell her?
I was hiding from my mom mostly. I was like, oh, nothing is happening. Everything is fine. But I was sharing with my dad always.
Mm-hmm. How interesting.
So you were 11 in 2001 when the United States first arrived in Afghanistan, is that correct?
Yes.
So did you continue your education, or what happened between, your teenage years to 2011 when you were first hired as a translator? What was that like?
I was just like learning. So my father was teaching us at night. I was going to school during the day. And for example, from morning to lunchtime, I was going to school. And after lunch, I had like some 2-3 classes, private classes, and some, we call them courses. It's like academic places, like people charge students and they teach a subject. So my father enrolled me and my brothers, my sister, all of us, and we were going there as well. And during nighttime, then my father was teaching us as well. Like he was, okay, bring your books, and we were reading, and he was correcting us. He was watching TV as well, and he was correcting us as well. And sometimes when he was asking me, read the book, and I was start reading it, and he was watching TV, and was like one hair was toward me. Sometimes I was skipping 3-4 lines because I was tired of like studying every day, every night. And my father would caught me. I was like, how he caught me? Did he memorize all the book? But later on, I understood like, okay, based on the sentences structure or sentences like meaning, he understands like I skipped like 2-3 lines. He was slapping me like, don't skip.
Would y'all walk to school?
Yes.
Okay.
School was closer.
Did y'all have interactions with the United States military, like daily, weekly? Was there?
No, sometimes we were seeing them inside like their tanks, like they were crossing a road. We were seeing them.
Was it dangerous for you as a kid growing up there with the interaction with the military and the Taliban?
So we grew up inside like a city. So mostly city was safer.
Okay.
So like the villages, those places were war places.
So outside of town was more dangerous than...
Yeah, so we were inside the town, so it was safe. Sometimes like Americans were crossing, and we were seeing them like they were inside the tank, and once someone is like on top of the tank, they were looking around just for their security. And the funny thing is like when tanks were crossing, cell phones were not working until they passed. They had some kind of device, like they would disconnect everybody's cell phone.
How interesting! I had no idea.
A little signal blocker.
Yeah, signal blocker.
What? So trying to figure out how to best phrase this, but when I think of Afghanistan, especially in the early 2000s, when I visualize that, I visualize war basically because I don't have more context than that. But what was your day-to-day life like? I mean, was there grocery stores? You go walk to get food, gas station? Just what was the city like? I mean, did you feel safe at that time to walk around the city with your friends? I mean, how was that? Just how was life as a kid there?
So the life as a kid over there, like we were lucky that my father was working and he was providing food. He was providing like education expenses for us. So we were lucky. But there are like thousands kids over there still in Afghanistan that they work. They cannot go to school because they have to work. Maybe their father is old, or maybe their father died in the war and they're the head of the family. Like an 80-year-old like boy is the head of family. You cannot believe that. Even right now, if you look at the YouTube, Afghanistan poverty, if you search, you're going to see like a lot of babies. They're selling like bags. They're selling like something on the side of the road, and they ask people like, hey, can you please buy it. And if you ask them like, how much do you make a day, they will maybe say like 50 cents or $1.
Wow.
And what only they eat is bread, because they need to buy like 5 bread and take home at night, so his sister, mother, they can eat. But we were lucky because my father was providing everything. But I was seeing that kind of situation when I was going to like stores. I was seeing like, okay, look at people like they cannot go to school because they are under poverty. They don't have food.
Is school free there?
School is free. Yeah.
Okay.
Even college is free.
Oh wow.
Yeah, even college was free for Afghan people. But for college there was an entry exam. Like all people who graduate from 12th class, they need to take an exam, and based on their scores, they were going to college. But later on, once I graduated, there were some private universities as well. Like they were charging money and they were teaching you whatever subject you want to go.
So with the Taliban, with them trying to prevent education, a lot sounds like here recently it's less of that. But would they go after these universities? I mean, it seems like the Taliban wouldn't want education to exist. So was there issues with that?
They burned some schools and like in the villages, because as I say, like Taliban mostly had control on the villages than cities. They couldn't do that because there were like Afghan soldiers around, so they couldn't do that. And they were burning like schools, especially girls' schools, because they believe like girls cannot go to school. Girls only for like giving birth, raising a child, or sleeping with a man. That's what they believe. They don't believe like girls, they can be a doctor, they can be an engineer, they can be a president. They don't believe that. Even right now, they closed girls' schools since they took over, and it's closed. Like girls after 6th grade, they cannot go to school. So right now we have million girls sitting at home, uneducated, 2 years of their life wasted.
And that's because America just pulled out and that
America,
allowed that to
yes,
happen.
America pulled out and Taliban came over and they're imposing their rules.
Wow.
So that's why, like I'm saying, it's a shame for such a beautiful country, for such a great country to do that kind of action. If America had a plan, okay, like I'm pulling out every troops, but I'm gonna keep 500 troops, Afghanistan wouldn't face this kind of situation. Even I would say like 50 troops was enough for Afghanistan.
So is America just that much more advanced when it comes to military actions that it doesn't? Very few Americans were able to kind of hold control and keep things at bay.
The name of America is enough.
Wow.
Like if I would say like if America had their embassy only in Kabul, like they would say like I'm gonna pull out all my troops, but the embassy is gonna stay with 50 troops, just to provide security. That was enough.
And we didn't even leave that. I mean, we pulled everything out.
Pulled out everything.
Holy cow, that's insane.
And they did a lot of that things, like probably you saw on the news, like a lot of translators, like they were in the process to come to America, and their passport were with the embassy, because the embassy wanted to give them visa so they can travel. So what America did, once they were evacuating the embassy, they didn't know what to do with the passports. They burned them.
Oh no.
So they're just stuck there.
Now, like half of them stuck over there because they don't have passport, and Taliban basically is not giving passport for everyone easily.
Is the Taliban hunting them down now?
Who knows? Yes. Who knows? Like my brother is right now is hiding. This brother is actually the youngest brother. So I'll go back to the story. So I took my brother with me and we worked 5 years. After 5 years, like I was coming to America, and Americans asked me like, okay, you're leaving. We need a replacement. We need someone. I told them, okay, I have another brother if you want to hire. And they hired my brother. He's the youngest. And right now, that youngest brother is still in Afghanistan. He has approved special immigration visa case. Everything is approved. He's just waiting for someone to take him and put him on the plane and bring him over.
So how does that work? I mean, he's waiting for who? Who's going to come get him and put him, like, is that a military plane that'll pick him up? Or, I mean, how does that work?
So a special immigration visa, it's a long process. Like for some people, it takes like a year. For some people, it takes years. My brother applied for SIV 2018. He got his approval 2023.
Oh my goodness.
5 years later. They rejected his SIV multiple times. And after like a lot of paperwork, because he knew SIV is a process, like you need to get a letter of recommendation from your supervisor. Like the guy you were his translator, he needs to write to USCIS like, okay, this guy is a good character. He worked with me from this date to this date. I believe he doesn't pose any threat to the Americans' security. Like a lot of things he has to write on that piece of paper. And another paper he has to get from HR of that company. Like HR has to confirm like, okay, this guy worked from this date to that date. Then a couple more paperwork which needs to be filled out by the applicant, by the translator. Then he needs to submit to SIV, and then it's going to take months to get approval. Most of the time they reject it because they say, oh, this paperwork is wrong, or this is fraud, this is like fake, and sometimes they accept it. Mine took 18 months, but my brother has 18 months for the whole process, like from approval, interviews, medical, everything. After 18 months, I came to America. For my youngest brother, he applied 2018. He got his approval 2023. And he is right now waiting in Afghanistan. Because what America is asking him, the NVC, National Visa Center, is asking him, if you want to travel to other country like Pakistan, like those countries, neighboring countries, we can provide you the interview process, everything from there. But he cannot go there because all countries they like close their borders with Afghanistan, except Pakistan. Pakistan is open, but you need to get a visa. But he cannot go anywhere. So he just would ask Americans like, hey, I have passport. My wife has a passport. My son has a passport. Help me. So they replied back to him like they have a team which they help people evacuate from Afghanistan. And they bring them over to a third country, like a Germany, like some like Asian countries, and they provide food, everything, until they get processed everything, and they will bring them eventually to America. So they replied to him like, just wait.
Wow. So he's just in hiding,
He's
scared,
just
you
hiding
know,
in
and
different city, because once Taliban took over Afghanistan, so my brother, the story is different. So first, like we were living in, there was some rumors that gonna collapse the Taliban. So my brother called me. He was like, "Hey, what should I do?" On that time, he was jobless because the Americans that project was already done. It was done July, 1 year before. He was like, "What should I do?" I told him, "Go," because it was still safer. There was rumor that our city is gonna collapse. So he went to with his wife, and 2 days after, which was our city, collapsed the Taliban. And he was like, "Okay, what should I do now?" I told him, "Just stay." And then after a couple days, I heard that collapse. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna collapse the Taliban. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Who knows?" And there was a news also in Americans media, like Afghanistan would collapse to Taliban in 90 days. That created a lot of panic. So what my brother called me like, "Hey, what should I do?" I told him like, "Okay, stay there. Where are you?" He said like, I was providing him money from here because he doesn't have any job. So I told him like, stay there. Then I called my friend who was a translator with us in Afghanistan, but now he's in America. I called him like, "Hey, your family is in Kabul. Can your family help my brother?" He was like, "Yeah, just ask him to go to my house." So he called his brother. I called my brother. They communicate with each other, and he took him to his house. Same night, collapsed.
holy cow.
Holy cow.
So when you say these cities are collapsing to the Taliban, what does that mean exactly? Are the Afghani soldiers just leaving? They
Yes.
don't want to fight. They're overwhelmed by Taliban coming in, and then all of a sudden Taliban has soldiers everywhere, and they've just basically controlled the town.
So what happened? Like the Afghan National Army, they stopped fighting Taliban, and Taliban they came over and they took everything. For example, this like tank was an Afghan soldier was sitting in a tank. Once Taliban came, the tank was empty. So Taliban took over the tank.
They don't take the keys, or there's no way to lock them up.
Like,
That's insane.
so like I heard like there's a lot of like Taliban, they were riding tanks inside the city. You cannot believe like a Taliban invaded Afghanistan with motorcycle, which is funny. Afghan National Army had tank, helicopters, everything, but Taliban they invaded Afghanistan with motorcycle.
Was there just no resistance once America pulled
Yes.
out?
Well, no resistance. That's why I believe like it was a plan. That's what I believe. Like all the world media is talking like Afghan National Army couldn't stand against Taliban. They were weak. We wasted $1 million just to train them in the past 20 years. No, they were not weak. They were strong. They had the courage to fight against Taliban, even with low ammunition, with nothing. But no one let them fight. When I was working with Afghan soldiers inside the base, some Afghan soldiers were telling me like, if they allow us to really fight against Taliban, we can kill Taliban with a shovel.
Who was allowing them or not allowing them?
The government,
the
Afghanistan, Afghanistan government, they were not allowing them.
And that's what you mentioned. There's a ton of politics involved
Yes.
with all of that.
That's why, like, if I see an Afghan soldier anywhere, I would salute, because they were so brave. They died, thousands of them died in the past 20 years, and to bring security in Afghanistan. At the end, they were like traded.
That is so sad. So how do you feel now that you're in America and you see the southern border where there's just tens of thousands of millions of people just coming across, and then you have your brother in hiding, waiting years for visas? I mean, does that frustrate you to see that?
So immigrants, they always skip from something. So these people coming from border, maybe they're skipping from poverty, maybe they're skipping or running from security, maybe from something else. But I would say for America, the Afghan translators should be a priority.
Absolutely.
They're bringing a lot of people, crossing border every day. So they have to make Afghan translators a priority. Even when Afghanistan collapsed, they were saying we evacuated 125,000 people the biggest evacuation in the history. Someone needed to ask, how many of them are translators? Probably 2%.
Wow.
Goodness.
The rest, what happened? Anyone who walked to the airport came to America. Anyone. Like, for example, the airport was crowded, Taliban was in the city, like it was chaos.
I remember seeing videos of that.
Yes.
It was just insane.
It was chaos.
people hanging
yeah.
onto the planes,
Yes,
everything.
mhm. So what happened, like Taliban, like American was inside the airport at the gates. So anyone like who walk over came to America.
Wow.
So the translators, they couldn't walk over there. Why? Because they were scared. Like, okay, they know us as a traitor and we cannot go out because maybe a Taliban is going to kill me. Like my brother, he called me.
Has there been any updates about timing to get him
No,
out?
he's just waiting for like a miracle.
Wow. How is the rest of your family? Are they all still over there, or have they made it over?
No one can guarantee what's going to happen to my family next hour.
Make sure we don't want to put your family in any sort of difficult
So
position.
was the original deal 5 years of service, and then that you would get American citizenship? You said 5 years. Was that?
So it was different. Like when I got the job, it was a contract. Like it was a yearly contract. Every year they were updating my contract. So
Okay.
they were not a deadline. Like, okay, until this time you should be a translator. And every year I was extending my contract with them with that salary, and they were paying me cash. And there was no promise when I signed that contract at the beginning. There was no promise like we're gonna take you to America. There was no promise.
Wow.
It was just a job contract. Like, okay, you're gonna translate for us. You're gonna work from this time to that time. You're gonna come to this base, military base. We're gonna pay you cash bi-weekly, to you, or we're gonna do this, do that. But no promise like we're gonna take you to America. We're gonna provide you a special immigration visa. Nothing.
Did something happen? Like once so many death threats came in, they then started incentivizing you to stay, so you didn't quit.
So like when I started receiving death threats, as I said, I shared with my supervisor. He was telling me it's okay, just like heads down.
Easy for him to say. He didn't have to walk home.
He was trying to help me, but he couldn't help me. Like he was like, this job has that kind of outcome. If you didn't know, I'm sorry, but this is the outcome. You're taking a big risk to help Americans. And I shared with my father multiple times, but one time I was so tired of my life because I didn't have any life. I was making money, but I couldn't spend it because I couldn't go out.
You were in hiding, basically.
Yeah, I couldn't go out. I couldn't go to restaurants. I couldn't go to anywhere. I was just home base. And so what happened, I told my father, like, I'm tired of my life. I'm going to quit. Then my father said the same thing to me again. You're on a big mission. Americans are here to help us. So if you're not translating, if you're coward and you're scared, so other people like you, they get scared as well. Who's going to help them? Who's going to help Afghanistan? So you have to keep doing what you're doing. If you die, you're going to die as a brave person. I will be proud if you die. But
Wow.
you have to keep doing what you're doing. Because like you, young generation, should never be scared. Because Afghanistan's leaning on you. And he made me like keep doing what I'm doing. Then I went back to base and I told my American supervisor, like, hey dude, it's not looking good. So I'm receiving a lot of like threats. Then he said like, okay, I'm gonna provide some paperwork for you. It's enough for you. You have to leave the country. He provided the paperwork for me. I applied for a special immigration visa. I got approval after 6 months. 6 months later, I got approved. Then I thought I'm going to be evacuated as soon as possible. Then it took another 12 months.
Oh my God.
What did the evacuation look like? I mean, what was coming to America like for you? I mean, was it a commercial flight, military flight? Where'd you come to America? I mean, what was that whole process like?
So on that time, like America had an embassy in Kabul. So what they asked me for an interview. So I went with my wife to interview, and they did interview. Like the interview took like 20 minutes, and after that they asked me to wait. And I wait. They got my passports although. So I waited, and after like 2 months, they asked me to do the medical exam. Then I went with my wife back to Kabul. Every time we were flying, a plane because it was risky to do a bus travel from Mazar Sharif to Kabul. It was like 8 hours, 10 hours drive because we don't have highways. Like the car can speed and we can go ASAP. Our roads are so tiny, it's so bad.
And as you said, outside the cities, it gets dangerous.
Yes,
so
it's dangerous.
Scary,
and it was mountainous as well. Like you have to climb the mountains, and like on the other side of the mountain is Kabul. So every time I was going with the plane to Kabul, we did the medical, and they gave me the visa. My visa got issued. Then embassy asked me to come to the embassy and collect the visas. So this time I traveled Kabul by myself. I didn't take my wife. So I took a flight early morning. I went to Kabul, and I went to the embassy. I grabbed my visas, my passports. Then I flew back same day to our city. Then they asked me to wait for IOM, International Organization for Migrants. They're gonna provide me flight tickets, everything. And then they asked me which part of America you wanna move in, so we can prepare some basic stuff for you and your wife. Then I asked my supervisor, hey, where should I go? I have no idea about your country. Then he asked me, where do you have friends? I told him, I have friends in Pennsylvania, in Virginia, Texas, California. He asked me, go to Texas. And then he asked me, is your friend living in Austin? I said, yes, he's living in Austin, Texas. He asked me, go to Austin. Austin is a place for you so you can start your new life, your new career. And I picked Austin. Then I think it took another 2 months for them to prepare my flight ticket, everything. So then they prepared my flights, everything. Then the embassy asked me, come to the embassy on Thursday, grab my tickets, and stay night in Kabul. And Friday, I have a flight from Kabul to Dubai, and from Dubai to Houston, from Houston to Austin.
And that was for you and your wife?
Yes, for me and my wife. We didn't have daughter on that time.
Were you just terrified with these delays? 2 months, 1 month?
Yes.
Were you just my God, hurry
up?
Yeah,
because people calling me traitor, and I was receiving death threats and still waiting for something, which is horrible. Why it's taking so long? You guys didn't know my personality in the past 5 years that you're doing another security check?
Did you live at the same place this entire time, or did you have to move around?
I was living same place.
And
I didn't have any option.
Well, you didn't keep a gun to
No.
protect yourself?
As I said, my father was against the gun. He was like, no gun is allowed inside this house.
Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just
he was
pens.
he was like pen. Pen is the biggest, is the strongest gun you can have. He told me hey, we had gun in the past 40 years. What is the outcome? He said nothing. That's why you need to have a pen. We need to start.
I agree with your father, but man, that's brave. I am a strong believer the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Yeah, it's difficult. Even if I had a gun, I wouldn't I couldn't fire it. I couldn't shot it because I was scared. I cannot kill something. I was scared. So what happened back then? Then I faced a big challenge. So what challenge I faced? So when they asked me to come on Thursday to Kabul, I booked a flight from Mazar Sharif to Kabul. So my plan was to fly from Mazar Sharif to Kabul early morning and go to Kabul because it was 30 minutes flight. So I said I will go there, and then we will go to embassy, grab our passport, stay a night with my friend's house. The next day we will just fly to Dubai. I was so happy. I went to the base that day as well, 1 day before traveling. I went to the base and I said goodbye to everybody. They had an happy hour for me, and they wished me best of luck, everything. And when I went home, I received a call from the airline, and they told me hey, your flight for tomorrow morning is canceled. I was like, why? They said, oh, there's a plane damaged the runway in Kabul airport, so all flights are canceled. I told him I need to go there because I'm going to pick up something very important. They told me, I'm sorry, all the flights are canceled. Then my supervisor, he called me hey, I heard that the runway is damaged, so what's your plan? I told him I don't know, I think I have to go. He told me, yes, you have to go. Otherwise, if you don't go and get your tickets from the embassy and you miss that appointment, rescheduling that flight is going to take another 2 months.
Holy cow.
I said, okay, I will go. Then I asked my father, what should we do? My father said, let's go with a bus. And I said, okay, but it's risky. He said, there's no option. I'm going to go with you. Then my mom started saying like, oh, I will go with you as well. I asked my mom like, hey, why you want to go? My mom said like, oh, because if anything happens on the way, if Taliban stops the bus and identify you, I'm gonna beg, I'm gonna cry, I will do whatever possible so they can spare you.
Wow. So you were taking a bus from where to where exactly?
From our city, Mazar Sharif, to Kabul.
Oh, so through the mountains and
Yeah,
on that
through the
really
mountains.
difficult.
How far of a drive is that?
It was like 8 hours to
hours.
10 hours.
Wow.
And it was like in the afternoon already. Like during nighttime, it was riskier. It was in the afternoon, it was like around 3 p.m. And then we said, okay, let's go.
Will the Taliban stop buses and ID everybody
They
on
usually,
time?
they were usually doing it, yeah. They were usually like stopping buses. Not all the buses, like some of them. Because
So-
they were hiding, suddenly they come on the highway and they have their guns, rockets, everything, and they ask the bus to pull over.
How was that 8-hour drive?
So what happened, the story is like, I asked my mom, like, okay, bring me a cloth. So my mom brought me a traditional Afghan cloth. It was ironed, cleaned, everything. So what I did, I put it on the dirt. I made it dirty. Then I wore it. Then I had something on my head as well. So I tried to look like a villager. I gave all documents, phones, everything to my wife. And I texted my supervisor before giving the phone, like, hey, I'm going, no text, no call until I call you. So wish me good luck. So 8 to 10 hours, I will call you back. He would texted me, just stay alive and let me know. The good thing about Taliban at that time was like they were not searching women. So that's why I gave everything to my wife. So we went to the bus and we started riding. I was so scared, like, okay. Whenever the bus was braking, I was like, oh, something's happening.
Oh my God.
So
My hair's standing up, like just
getting
thinking about you.
yeah, so we started going and keep the drive kept going, and until we passed that danger area. There was an area which was so dangerous. We passed that dangerous area. Then my father tapped on my shoulder from the behind. He told me like, don't worry, we passed the danger area. Going after this, like Afghan National Army, they're on full control of the roads and highways. Then I took my phone from my wife. As soon as I turned it on, I saw a lot of text messages from my supervisor, like, hey, are you alive? I cannot go to sleep. It was like 2 in the morning. I texted him like, hey, I'm alive. I passed the danger area. I'm going toward the city. So maybe in 2 hours, I will arrive to my friend's house. That friend was a translator as well. But he was in our project in Kabul. And he's right now in America as well. So then I went there. When I saw him, he told me like, the supervisor even called me. Like, hey, do you have any news from Bezhan? I was like, no, his phone is off, so don't worry, he's gonna be fine. Then I went home. Then we slept like 2-3 hours. Then I woke up early and I went to embassy. I grabbed my flight tickets and we flew to Austin.
Holy cow.
So at that time, had you ever left Afghanistan before?
Yes, I
Okay.
had a flight in 2015 to Delhi, India. I had a flight with my wife and my mother because my wife needed a medical attention, so I took her over there.
Okay, but beyond that, you had never left Afghanistan.
No.
And so at that time, what was your thought of America? Like when you visualized going to America, what was that feeling? What were you thinking about? You know, what were you visualizing?
It was a dream. Like when I was in the plane, I was so happy. Like, oh my God, I'm going to America. I'm gonna have a great life. I'm gonna have a peaceful life. Now I'm gonna have freedom. I was so happy. But when I landed at the Austin, my friend came over and he took me to his car and he was driving to his home. I was looking at the window, like, where is America? And then I saw the downtown. I think he was driving from Mopac, like I-360 Mopac, and I saw the downtown, small downtown. I was like, what? And I was blaming myself for 2 nights. Like, shit, I didn't pick a good city. My supervisor, he did a mistake. He sent me to a village. I thought Austin is a village. I was blaming myself for 2 days. I was so sad. Like, this is not America.
Just because it wasn't big enough?
No, it didn't have skyscrapers, tall buildings like the way you guys show in the movies.
You were thinking like New York City or, you know. And,
yeah, I was watching Spider-Man movies in Afghanistan. I thought like all America is like that.
Wow.
And I was blaming myself for 2 days. And my cousin, he was living on that time 15 years in Pennsylvania. He showed up. He drove from Pennsylvania to Austin.
Wow.
And he came, and his first reaction was like, "Oh my God, I love Texas. I love Austin. What a beautiful city. What a beautiful state. Look at the highways, how big highways are. Oh my God." I asked him, "Hold on. If this is beautiful, where did you come from?" He asked me, like, "What do you mean?" I told him, like, "What happened to America that I watched in a Spider-Man movie?" Then he told me, like, "Hey, America's not like that. America's a spread. Every city has a downtown, but depends. Some downtowns are big, some downtowns are small." Then he took me to New York. Then he took me to Pennsylvania. When I went to Pennsylvania, especially the city, I think Allentown, I didn't like it. I was like, "Oh, this is so bad. This is not America."
Did you drive from Austin to New York, or did you fly?
Yes. He took me.
So you got to see
yes.
a huge portion
Yeah,
of the country.
Yes, I saw everything. But I wasn't expecting America the way it is. I was expecting like Hollywood movies. Then we went to Pennsylvania. We stayed in his house for 2 weeks. Then we came back. So we came back and he got a car for me. We bought a car. I came to America with a little money, but he helped me and he got a car for me. And then he needed to go to work. We went back to Pennsylvania. So a car was parked in front of my apartment. I didn't have money. I only had $500 in my pocket. No job. The government, what they were doing to me, they were giving me food stamp. I think it was $190 per month food stamp. They gave me food stamp for 6 months. They gave me Medicaid for 6 months. They were paying my rent 2 months, for 2 months or 3 months, 70% of the rent. Like not all 100%. And I didn't have a job. I was like, okay, what should I do? I have a car. I don't have driver license. I don't know how to drive because when I look at these highways, I was scared. Like I cannot drive in these highways. Although I was a driver in Afghanistan, I had a car, I had many years of experience, but I was scared. When I went to do the road test in DPS, Pflugerville, I failed.
Oh, no.
The reason I failed, I didn't stop in the stop sign. The guy asked me like, "Hey, why you didn't stop in the stop sign?" I told him like, "I don't know what the hell is this. We don't know in our country." He failed me. He asked me go study. I needed to drive to learn about the highways, get used to highways, right? So I did some YouTube videos. I took some classes to learn about the signs, but I needed to drive. I didn't have anyone to help me because my friend was busy with his job, with his family. And my cousin went back to Pennsylvania. And if I was driving, maybe cops gonna pull me over, I do mistake, and they give me a ticket because I don't have a driver license. If I don't drive, I'm gonna fail again. So what happened, I drove. I had my Afghanistan driver license in my pocket and I started driving. I was like, if the cop pulls me over, I'm gonna tell the cop like, "Hey dude, you're not letting me drive. That guy is not giving me driver license. How should I learn? Nobody's here. I'm a driver. I can drive, but I just need to get used to these roads." But fortunately, I was not pulled over. And then after 2 months, I went back to DPS and I passed. Another funny thing is like when I had the car, my cousin, he called me from Pennsylvania. He told me like, "Hey, before you start driving, you need to get an insurance." I was like, "What is that?" He said like, "Oh, this car needs an insurance. So I go to AAA." He sent me to AAA. So I went to AAA. I asked the guy like, "Hey, I need an insurance." The girl said, "Oh, you're good. So wait here. Someone is going to help you." So a man came from the office and he was like, "Come on, sir, I'm going to help you." He took me to his cube and he asked me like, "Okay, what type of insurance do you want?" I told him like, "What types do you guys have?" Then I told the guy like, "Look, I came from Afghanistan. I have no idea about your country. I don't know about this insurance thing. Please explain to me. Then I'm going to pick one." The guy was very helpful. He really helped me and he explained the insurance, everything for me. And then at the end, I pick an insurance. Like the way like I started my life in America was so challenging because I didn't know anything about this country. Like it was a new planet. I didn't know where to buy grocery. When the first time I went to HEB, I didn't know like, okay. When I went to like a potato, I had 2, 3, 4 types of potatoes. I was like, okay, we only have one in our country. Why do they have too many?
So what was that like? I mean, going into a grocery store, I mean, just everything was probably just overwhelming, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was very like a stressful situation for me because I didn't know. Like some people were putting potatoes in the bag and they were scaling and something was printing and they were putting on top of that. I was like, how they know like this is potato? Then I stopped a customer. Stopped a customer. I said, excuse me, can you teach me like how do you know if it's potato? Then he showed me like, hey, do you know this code? That's the code for potato. And it's if you see each of them has a different code. The ones you put on the scale, put that code, it's gonna scale you and print you. I was like, okay, thank you. And I didn't know like food stamp how it's gonna work. They gave me food stamp, I didn't know how it's working. And like I didn't know like about to get the internet. I didn't know debit card, credit card, nothing.
That's all new. I mean, you just didn't have that
Everything was
set up.
new for me. The only thing helped me was my English. So what I did, I Googled. I started Googling everything. I Googled what is Walmart. And I read about it. And I saw the pictures. Okay, what is inside the store? I Googled what is HEB. Most Texans don't know what HEB stands for. Do you guys know?
Yeah, it's the initials of the owner, something E but or something.
See, still like you don't know 100%.
Yeah.
I knew it because I Googled and I read about the store. Most Texans, they say HEB is here, everything the best. But not something that, but it's a Edward Howard Bat. So I read about that store, so that's why I know. I Googled what is CVS. I Googled all of these things. And that's how I learned about this country. So as I said, back to that story, like I had $500, no job, nothing. And I went to that Caritas. There was an organization. They were helping me. They said, oh, we're going to find you a job. So I went there and they said like, okay, there's a job. You need to work in a hotel or in the warehouse. I told them like, look, I have experience. I have bachelor degree. And you giving me this kind of job? I can find that job myself. I thought you're going to help me find a good job. They told me like, oh, this is the only thing we can do. Then they said, okay, we can create a resume for you. I said, I already have resume. They said, we can create a LinkedIn for you. I said, I already have it. They said, okay, we're going to create Indeed.com for you. I said, I already have all these. What you can help me? They said, oh, we can only give you this kind of job. Then I just said, no, I can find this job myself. I'm going to look for a better job. I started applying. No company reached out to me. No company. For a month. And I was like, okay, I need to work because I have $500 and my rent is coming. I need to pay the 30%. And I need some other stuff to buy, like blankets. Like we came, when we opened the apartment, it was empty. Nothing. It was first floor as well. Like even the living room didn't have any carpet. And me and my wife, we look at each other. I was like, okay, what we should do? Even that apartment that we were living didn't have a microwave. And I told my wife, it's okay, we're gonna make it alive. Hold on, give me time. I have money in Afghanistan, but that money was spent for medical expenses, so that's why I was running out of money. And my supervisor, he promised to me that he's gonna give me $1,000 as a gift once I come to America. And last time we met inside the base in Afghanistan, he asked me like, once you go to America, once you open an account, share with me your routing number and account number. My wife is gonna transfer that money to you. It's gonna be a gift from us to you. I told him okay, but I didn't ask him. He called me. He was like, give me your bank number. I told him, okay, I'm gonna give it to you. Give me time. I didn't give it to him. Then he called me another day. Eventually he was pissed off, like, why are you not giving me your account number? I told him, Dave, let me suffer. Let me cry. Let me have all the pain. That's how I'm gonna stand on my own feet. If you give me this money, I'm gonna be lazy.
Wow.
I told him, last option, you're the last option. So right now I still have options. So let me suffer. Then he told me, okay, let me know when you need. As of now, I still didn't take this money.
Wow. So what
That's
job
incredible.
have you ended up getting a job, or how did that play out for you?
So I was, as I said, I was applying. No company was calling me. So I asked a friend of mine. I was asking him like, hey, what should I do? He asked me like, hey, go to Applied Materials. That company is big, and there are some small companies inside that company, like logistic company. They're hiring people at the warehouse. Go there. I said, okay. He gave me the address, and I went. First time when I went, I don't know where did I go because I put that thing wrong in navigation. It took me somewhere else. Next day, I came back to my friend. I told him like, hey, I couldn't find that location. Then he gave me the exact location again on Google. So I drove there. Once I drove there, I told the receptionist like I'm here for a job. She asked me to wait. Then a guy came. I think his name was Brian. Very helpful guy. See, like these people helped me. I still remember them. They didn't behave with me like, okay, this guy doesn't know anything about job. This guy doesn't know about America. I wouldn't hire him. Like the insurance guy, he was helpful, and this guy was also helpful. So he came, and then he introduced me to one of the ladies, and the lady took me to the warehouse everywhere, and she told me like, okay, this is the job. We're gonna pay you $10 an hour. I was so like sad, like, oh, in Afghanistan, a lot of people were reporting to me. I was a coordination manager. I was translator, making money. Here I'm gonna work in a warehouse. I was so sad. But I said, it's okay. I have to start from something. Then the lady took me inside the room for an interview. The guy, the Brian, who was the hiring manager, the big guy on that company, he was working on with his laptop on the side. The lady started asking me questions about my experience, everything. Half of the interview, the guy came and he asked the lady, you go interview someone else, he's going to interview me. Then he told me like he's not going to give me the job. He told me like, you have good qualification, you have good experience, you know computer, you know everything. Give me time, I'm gonna find a good job. I said, okay. Then he called me 2 days later. He said he found another job which pays $12 an hour, $2 more than that. It's half office, half warehouse. I said, thank you so much. Then he told me like, give me 2 more days. Then he called me. He said, I have another job paying you $13 an hour. It's an office job, but it's going to require an interview. I said, that's fine. So he set up an interview with the hiring manager. So I went there and I had 2 people sat in front of me. They asked me questions, and they offered me the job. So my first job in America was the office job. I started there. After working 3 months, I became employee of the month. They gave me a raise. Then I converted to RFT, full-time position with the subcontractor company. I worked with them for like 2 years, but I needed a good job, a good money, because that money was not enough. That's why I started driving Uber on the weekends to cover some other expenses. And I needed a good job. So then once I noticed like, okay, in this country, if you don't study, you're not going to get the good job. So I decided I will go back to school. I applied for multiple degrees at UT, St. Edwards, Texas A&M, and eventually St. Edwards, they gave me admission. Multiple times I got rejected for MBA, Master in Business Administration program. I got rejected. Eventually I got approved, and I went back to school. I completed 1 year of my MBA. Then I started looking for a job in the same company in applied material, and I got a job as a production planner directly with the company with applied material. So I was so happy. Like I got the job, and I worked with them for 1.5 years. Then I promoted to technical project manager. Now I'm a senior technical project manager in applied materials.
Hell yeah.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. So did you complete your MBA
Yes.
at St. Edwards?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
I completed with 3.87 GPA.
Wow.
There you go.
I'm sure your dad is very proud of you with all your success here.
Yeah, so when I went to school, I called my dad. I told him like, hey, I got admission on MBA and I'm gonna go start it. My father told me like, if you called me and you told me like you're making $1,000 per hour, it wouldn't make me happy as much you made me now.
Wow.
He said,
awesome.
now I can tell my friends like, hey, my son is an American. He's studying MBA.
Wow.
Let's take a 2-minute break.
All
All right, back
we're
from
back.
break.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, I'm curious. I wanted to ask this question earlier, and I let it slip by. What was your first meal once you made it to the United States, and how's the food been for you? I know it has to be very different.
The first meal me and my wife we had, so it was in our friend's house, so he cooked like Afghan food. But once we stayed 2 nights in my friend's house, then once we moved to our apartment, the first meal me and my wife had was Maggi.
Was what?
Maggi, like the chicken thing, like you put the boiled water and you cook. What's it called?
I don't know if I know what you're
The
talking
thing
about.
like the I think it's Chinese thing. Like you put it has macaroni and you put like the flavor, and you put boiled water. And
Oh,
you
like
Oh,
ramen noodles.
Ramen noodles.
Yeah,
That was your
ramen
first.
noodles.
That was your first American meal.
Yes.
Oh goodness. So we were wrapping up. You got your MBA from St. Edward's, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then been very successful moving up at Applied. I forgot the name.
Applied
I'm sorry.
Materials.
Applied materials.
Applied Materials. I apologize.
No problem.
I understand you, shortly after moving here and working there, you were able to buy your first home.
Yes. So COVID. So when COVID started, I started working from home. And that time I was recently hired in Applied Materials. I started my like a full-time job as a production planner January 27, 2020. And we moved to work from home in beginning of March. And so on that time, COVID was on the peak. Everything was cheap. Like the house was cheap. Because people, Americans, you know, there's one thing that I noticed in America. Americans, they panic so quickly. When they say like there's a storm coming,
All the toilet paper's gone.
toilet paper gone, HEB is empty. And even they say on the news like, hey, the storm is going to last 2 days. When you go to HEB, it's empty. So same thing on the COVID. People thought it's end of the world.
Yep.
And everything was cheap. Interest rate was dropping like crazy. So I decided like, okay, now I will be eligible for a loan. So let's buy a house. I asked my wife like, what do you think? She was like, yeah, you can do it if you want. I said, okay, let's do it. So before like jumping to the house, I called my manager. I'm so lucky that in the past years that I work with anyone, like anyone who was my supervisor or manager, they were very friendly with me. They were very supportive. Even right now, my manager supports me like a lot.
That's awesome.
My production planning manager supported me a lot. Even I named them in the book, like what kind of supports they did with me. Because they knew I'm from Afghanistan. I don't know anything about this country. I didn't know, like I have limited knowledge about this country. They helped me. But I did my best to be like a top employee. So I called my manager and I told him like, hey, I'm trying to buy a house. So what do you think about my employment? So you think I'm going to stay with you? He told me, yes, why not? I told him, okay, because I'm going to get a loan, buy a house. So I just want to make sure like you're going to keep me. He said, yes, as long as this company exists, you're with me. So it's a big company. Nothing is going to happen to this unless like something happens to the whole world. I cannot say that, but you're with us. Then I applied for a loan. Then I started looking. My favorite was always Round Rock. So I look around Round Rock. Then me and my wife, we started looking for the houses. Then we found a house. And we asked the builder to build it for us.
Oh, how cool.
Yes. So we asked, it is at 2,976 square feet. On that time, we didn't have the baby even. It was on me and my wife.
That's a big house.
Yes, it's a big house. And we asked the builder to build in Round Rock in Sienna community, which is by 79 and 130.
Yep.
So I asked them to build it. So but the build took like 7 months. And every month they were asking me for my paychecks. Just they wanted to make sure like everything is good. So when Americans were buying toilet paper, I went and I bought a house. I locked with the lowest interest rate in the history of America. The house.
That is awesome.
Price of my house right now is double, but price of toilet paper is almost the same. So what I mean, like, we have to use every opportunity. Like, I know people do mistakes. Sometimes you do mistake, you lose money, but never give up. Don't be like scared, like, oh, I lost money. For example, if you go to stock market and you lose money, it's fine. You're going to lose in every job you have. Like, I put my life into risk and I did support Americans in Afghanistan. The outcome was good, but at least like now I can tell myself like, okay, I served Afghanistan. I was born in that country and I studied in that country. I learned, I got my degrees, and I served a portion of my like responsibility. So just never give up. Whenever you fail, it's okay. Just raise again, stand again. You're going to get successful. So that's how I went and bought a house. I stayed in that house and I rented the house right now. The rent is more than its mortgage payment. Even it pays half of my rent payment right now. I rented an apartment. So I'm planning to buy another one, but maybe in 2 years. Once the interest rate is come back down, once the price is stable, probably I will go buy another one.
You're going to turn into a real estate mogul.
Maybe, yes. I have planned to get a degree on that one license, like go get my license and do everything myself. Like why we need to if we can do something, why we need to hire someone? For example, in this book, when I wrote it, I reached out to some people to edit it for me. They asked me like, oh yeah, we can help you, we can edit you, it's a great book, great story, but can you like check our subscriptions? These are our packages. When I look at the packages, they were charging me $thousands to just edit the book. I told my wife, like, no, I'm not going to spend any money on this book. I'm going to edit myself. I was a teacher in English teacher in Afghanistan. So I know grammar more than Americans.
Probably know more than I do on grammar.
Yes. And I have a story about that one also, about the grammar thing. And I did it myself. I spent a lot of hours. I used some like programs as well to just make sure like nothing is missing from me. And I did it. And when I published it, I was dying for an American review. Like, okay, what American thinks about this book? And my manager was the first guy who read the book. And he told me on that time I was working from home. He texted me like, hey, I read your book. I called him. I asked him like, give me honest feedback. He said like, yeah, I had a beer with myself and I had planned that I'm going to drink and read half of the book or maybe a couple pages. And then next night, he said, I was so in deep in your like a book, like I kept reading it. At the end, I noticed like I even didn't open my beer. I was like, oh my God, that's a good feedback. He said like he really loved it. I asked him like, what did you see any mistake in grammar, punctuation, sentence structure? He said, look, you wrote better than me. I was born in America. I am an American. English is my first language. I cannot write something like this.
That's awesome. So what caused you to want to write the book in the first place?
I got the idea of this book from Uber.
From Uber?
Yes. So when I started doing Uber like 6 years ago, and people started asking me questions like, hey, you have an accent. Where are you from? I was like, I'm from Afghanistan. And their second question was always like, how did you come to America? I told them, I was a translator for Americans. That's the reason I came to America. Then they were asking me thousands of questions. Some people invited me for lunch or dinner to know more about my story. They wanted to know, they had a lot of questions. Their question was like, why you help with Americans? What was people's idea? What America did in Afghanistan? Was it good? Is it bad? So they just wanted to know more. To be honest, I was tired of questions. People every weekend were asking me questions. Then I said, okay, people interested to know, let's write it. And I started writing it. It took me a couple of years to finish it because I was busy with job switching, with learning new responsibilities, with MBA, and then we had a baby. Like all these took my time, but I never gave up. I kept writing it, and eventually last year on June, I published it.
Okay, so just to clarify, you were working full-time at Applied Materials and driving Uber on the weekend as well.
And studying MBA.
And writing a book.
And writing a book. And also I was receiving the highest scores on my MBA. And I was always laughing on my classmates like, you lazy Americans, you spend your night and day, weekends in the bars. And I was giving them free rides as well. Sometimes, they were texting me.
You go pick them up from the bars?
Yeah, they were texting me like, hey, are you in this area? I was like, yes. They were like, can you drive me over there? I was like, oh, come on in, come. And I was they were dropping off to the bars. And I was still beating them on this score.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yes.
You are a walking example of the American dream, and I love to see that. It's amazing.
Yes, what does the American dream mean to you in your journey? How would you define it and describe it to someone?
People still think American dream is not achievable. People say, oh, right now American dream is not achievable in America. Everything is different. It's not the way it was 20 years ago, easy. No, it's achievable. I am the example. American dream means you have freedom, true freedom. Not the freedom that I'm seeing in America, people misusing that freedom, a true freedom. So you have security, you have food on the table, you have a career, and you never give up. That's an American dream for me, which I try to achieve all of it. I have security. I'm using my freedom the best way. I'm not misusing it. As I said, I saw a lot of Americans misuse their freedom. Whatever happens, if you suddenly have a small accident with someone, accident happens. People say, oh, I sue you. It's my freedom, I sue you. Or they say anything about any topic. They say it's my freedom. They do drugs and they tell the cops it's my freedom. That's not the freedom. Freedom is something you can talk. about something good. Freedom is something you can like use opportunity to help someone else. You know, when first time I saw homeless in America, I was like, what the hell? America has homeless people? If these people were born in Afghanistan, they would be dead. In Afghanistan, finding a job, having a freedom, having security is difficult. Like in Afghanistan, you cannot have a job. Even you have master's degree. You need to have connections, you need to pay people, bribe to get a job. And then you're going to make like $200 a month.
Wow. I'm sure that's extremely frustrating for you to see that.
Yes, that's why I told my wife, like, I want to raise my daughter as a true American. True American for me is someone who uses every opportunity from this country, every minute from this country. I would say, yeah, you can have fun, you can go to the bar, you can go vacation, but don't like have a lot of fun. On the side, have some like progress. Celebrate your progress. Like if you achieve something, then go celebrate it. You don't have any achievement and you celebrate every weekend. That's not fun.
Yeah, most Americans live for Friday night. That's all
Yes.
they're worried about.
They work 1 week in McDonald's and they spend one night. Next day they have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask them like, hey, what do you have? They don't have anything. Even they don't have the education. I want to share a story about Uber. One night I was driving Uber. 2 a.m. is the peak hour, like where there's surges, like you can make like good money. So that's the reason most Uber drivers, they stay until 2 a.m. so they can. That's the time that we actually make money. It was a UT graduation day. A lot of girls and boys, they had like that kind of thing. I don't know what's the word for that, like which has UT graduate written on the top of it. My car is an XL car, like I can pick up 7 people. So I had a ride, and there were like 6 girls, and I was dropping them to the 24th Street, which is there's rooms are. So it was a quick ride, 10 minutes ride, and I wanted to drop them as soon as possible so I can come pick up and do another ride. So when I arrived there, I told them, "Have a good night, guys." They were talking among each other. I was silent. I waited like 20 seconds. Then I said, "Have a good night, guys." I meant to say like, "Okay, guys, get out, so I can go and get another one." They were still talking. Then I waited another 20 seconds. Then I said, "Guys, is this okay, or I need to go somewhere else?" They said, "Oh, give us a couple of minutes. We're talking." I told them like, "Guys, I have to go. I'm so sorry." I was so polite with them, like, "Hey guys, I have to go. I have to do another ride. This is the prime time for me. I was awake until now just because of this. So please talk, have your conversation outside." They said, "Oh, we're paying you." I told them, "Yes, you're paying me, but Uber pays me per minute like 20 cents. If I go back, I can make more than that. So please have your conversation outside." Then one of them pointed me that thing, the UT thing, and she said, "Hey, respect us. I'm a UT graduate. I got my bachelor degree today, so respect me." I look at her, I told her like, "Look, I have 2 bachelor degrees from Afghanistan, and now I am doing my master's degree. So you respect me.
Good for you.
You're a person who has a bachelor degree, no experience, 0 experience. I have years of experience. I have 2 bachelor degrees, and I have a master's degree. So when I do Uber, doesn't mean I'm a characterless or I don't have a career. So get out."
Good.
They get out.
Yeah, they got out from the car.
Good.
So this is the thing, like I'm saying in America, like Americans, they don't want to be a true American. That's why I want my daughter to be a true American. Someone who needs to use every opportunity, someone who needs to appreciate everything from this country. For me, America, I would say, is heaven.
Is heaven?
Yes.
Yeah.
What you don't have? You have everything over here. Just you need to work hard.
Yeah, that's the craziest part of your perspective is so realistic on everything and you understand it, but so many Americans play victim and they want a handout and they don't want to work and it's someone else's fault.
Yeah, they just do. You know about the food stamp. When I had my food stamp, when I got my job, it was like 3 months. I called food stamp office one day. I had called them and the guy was like, "Okay, how can I help you?" I told the guy like, hey, I just want to know how you guys can terminate my food stamp. He was like, excuse me, what did he say? I told him like, hey, I just want to know how I can terminate my food stamp. He told me like, you're the first person in my entire career who called me and asking me to terminate the food stamp. Everybody else is calling me to extend the food stamp. He asked me, can I know the reason? I told him like, yes, I have a job now. I'm making money and it should be enough for me and my wife. I don't need free food. Free food is going to make me lazy. So I don't want the food stamp. Thank you so much for 3 months. You helped me.
Well, you're a true American. The government assistance programs are supposed to be temporary assistance, not
Yes.
long-term scapegoats to real work and providing for your own family.
I agree. Yeah, but people, they want to have always. Now I don't have anything from this like as an assistant from the government. I pay my taxes. I have medical insurance from the company I work. I pay for that. The company pays for that. I have vision. I have dental. I have 401k. I have stocks. I have everything from my own. I didn't receive anything from the government.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, we shouldn't receive, even like when I received that money from like COVID thing, everybody received something. Like even when I received that one, I tried to send to Afghanistan and help people, because as I said, $100 is nothing over here, but it's a lot of money over there. $100 is a food for a family of 5 or 6 for a month.
Wow. And you still send money back home, is that correct?
Yes, there's a limit, but there's a limit that we cannot go beyond that, but I still can send it, and I'm still sending it. Like whenever I feel like, okay, a family or a member of my friends or their family is suffering, they don't have job, they don't have food, so I just help them. And that's how we need to do. Like you will never forget someone who helps you in the hard times.
Absolutely.
Like I still don't forget that guy who helped me with the job. I still don't forget that guy who helped me with the insurance. I still don't forget my manager who trained me how to punch in, punch out. I didn't know like all these things. I couldn't forget all those people who helped me with the America, like my cousin who helped me, who explained to me everything about this country.
That's incredible. Your grit is undeniable, and it's serving you well.
Thank you.
That's absolutely awesome and great to hear. I want to know more about the book, when you actually had it published and how sales are going and what you've done to market it.
So I published it on June 13, 2023.
Okay.
I self-published it. As I said, I didn't want to spend any money on it. Even like the only thing I spent on this book was the cover page, because I couldn't design it. I picked the picture and I put the title, the flags, everything. I had the same idea, and I tried to find someone who can design for me. So what happened, I reached out, as I said, to some people to design for me. They were asking a lot of money for designing front and back. So then what I did different way. So I think they were asking me for $800 or $1,000 to design both sides. So what I did, I put my project on Upwork, and I picked my like people who can help me from Pakistan and India, because I know those people are cheaper. And a lady like sent me a couple samples. Then I got her phone number. I asked her, can you give me a WhatsApp number? So she gave me her WhatsApp number, and she designed for me, and we agreed to pay her $50.
Oh, wow.
To design both and front. Then once she designed for me, I really liked the design. I gave her 50 extra, and she was so happy from me. Like, oh my God, you're gonna give me $100 to just design the front and cover. So the sales as of now, I sold more than 500 copies.
Awesome.
Wow.
Through Amazon. But I sold couple books cash also. Like when I was driving Uber, I had couple books inside the car, and some people were like, I want to have right now. I don't want to wait for Amazon to deliver. I sold couple of them cash as well. And through marketing, I use TikTok sometimes. I post some picture of it. Sometimes I talk for like a couple of seconds to tell people. And I'm not using any paid advertisements. The only thing I have is Amazon for sponsorship thing. The rest, I just use some crazy techniques. For example, 2 weeks ago, I was driving Uber, and I was on the light, and I was just waiting for the light to turn green. I saw a homeless guy who had a board with his hand, like, hey, help me, I need money. I was looking at him. I felt so bad, like, why these people like homeless in America. Then he came to my window. He asked me, "Can you help me?" I told him that yes, I'm gonna help you, but I'm not gonna give you money. I'm gonna give you something else. He asked me like what? I told him like I'm gonna give you a book. Sell this book. Keep the money. He asked me like what is this book about? I told him this book is about my life as a translator in Afghanistan. So I know people are interested to buy it. So I just know I just cannot reach out to them. So sell it $5 one per and keep the money. I was like, okay, I will do it. So I gave him $20. I told him, I'm gonna give you $20. Just point to people like this. Hey, Afghan Translators book. You wanna know the story? Come get it. He said, okay. So I gave him $20, and I started doing Uber. And I told him like I'm gonna check back with him like in 1 hour. After like 45 minutes, I came back to that location. I saw the guy was sitting without no book. I asked him like, come over. So I parked my car. He came, and I asked him like, hey, what happened? He told me like he sold all 20 of them.
That's awesome.
I was like, really? He said like, yes. He got out the money from his pocket. He showed me like, hey, what should I do with all this money? I asked him like, how much did you sell each of them? He said, I sold $5 per, but some people give me extra and they told me like, give it to other. I told him like, okay, keep the money as I promised. I don't need any of those money from you. Just it's all yours. Then he asked me like, I need more books. I told him like, I can give it to you books, but not now because I need to order it and it's gonna take a while for Amazon to deliver it. So he got my phone number on a piece of paper. He said that he's gonna call me in 15 days and he needs more books. I promised to him that I'm gonna give him another like batch. Maybe this time I'm gonna give him 50 books just to help him. It's a marketing thing also for me. People will understand. People will see like there's someone homeless guy selling books, Afghan translator book, and it's also helping him instead of like asking for money, he's making money.
You're teaching him a very valuable lesson.
Yes, even I posted that video on my TikTok as well. Like got a lot of views on that one, a lot of comments. People were like, oh my God, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
That's incredible.
And also I have some posters inside the car when I drive Uber. So I have 2 posters behind the seat. And I wrote something different. Like I have a picture of my book. Then I wrote like, if you're interested in my book, please ask me. Because I don't want to ask everybody like, hey, you're interested in my book. I don't want to like disturb them. They can read it. And if they're interested, they can ask me. Then I can talk to them.
What a great idea. So I know, when you first showed up to Austin, you were somewhat disappointed. How are you feeling these days about Austin?
Oh, I feel so good. So Austin is a great city. I love Austin. I'm well familiar with the Austin, like festivals, like roads, bars, because I'm driving since like 6-7 years. I'm just driving around. I know all the bars names, but I've never been inside any of them yet. I never attended any festival myself. I will attend once I stop driving Uber forever. Then means like when I'm stable, I have more achievements, when I like achieve my dream. So then I will stop driving Uber. Then I will just try to have some fun.
What's your dream?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Wait, no.
The dream. So I want to be stable, like pay off all my debts, like including like the house, the student loan, and help my family. My family stand on their own feet. Right now, my family is in Afghanistan. As I said, my brother is suffering. I have to help him financially. So that's all my dream. Like as soon as I'm in that level, like I don't need to worry about the income anymore. Like, oh, I have a bill, I need to pay that. I need to have another bill. So that's my dream. Like position that I'm looking for is at the director level. Once I'm on director level, then I will stop.
That's amazing.
Because it's gonna take me like a couple hours, and maybe like 6 hours per night to drive, and to do like maybe 20-30 rides per week. That's not a lot of money, but still something like I can help someone in Afghanistan. Because I heard stories from my mother, like my cousins, they have children. They're like just eating bread and a watermelon. Lunch, dinner, bread and watermelon. Because they cannot afford rice, they cannot afford meat, they cannot afford anything else. And when I heard those kind of stories, it makes me keep driving. Because if I sit at home, what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch a movie, maybe sleep or do something else on the weekends. So instead I say like, no, let's drive, make money, and at least I can help those people.
That's incredible.
What is now that you've been in Austin for a few years, what's your favorite American food?
To be honest, I didn't like American food. I went to a couple restaurants. Even I asked my coworkers, like, "Hey, which restaurant is the best?" And I didn't like any of them.
No.
I tried American food. I tried Chinese food. I tried even Italian food. I didn't like it. That's why I'm asking you guys, like, try Afghan food. Like, there's a lot of good restaurants in other states, like California and New York. Like, they have a lot of Afghan foods. Go there, try. When I was in Afghanistan, one time I asked my mom, like, hey, cook some foods. I'm going to take it inside the base. So I told Americans, like, we're going to have a lunch, but this time I'm going to bring it. And they were like, okay. So my mom prepared the food, different types of food, and I had all of them. And as soon as I came inside the first gate of the base, I asked American supervisor, like, hey, come over and pick me up. Because I don't want to have all these foods and cross all the gates, because that base had multiple gates. I didn't want to cross all of them, and then Afghan soldiers, they ask for a piece. And I feel so bad because the Afghan soldiers, they were poor also. I don't want them to see all these delicious foods. So American came, and I put it on the trunk, and we went back. And once Americans had that food, they were crazy. They were like, oh my God, we never had this kind of food. And they were asking me, like, hey, bring me more. Bring tomorrow. But I told him, like, I cannot bring you every day because my mom is cooking all of these. I cannot bring you every day. But my supervisor, he was like, bring just for me.
How was she cook? Does she use a grill? Does she boil? Use an oven? Or what methods of cooking?
It's different things. Like, different foods we cook in different. Some of them we boil them. Some of them we use oven. Some of them we grill them. So
Okay.
yeah, it's different foods.
Do you like steak here in Texas?
No, I would say our kebabs are much delicious than steak. One time I was doing kebabs on backyard of my house. I had a guest and I was doing kebab. Next day when I was outside, I was mowing the grass. My neighbor, he was very friendly with me. So he asked me, like, hey, I smell a very good thing from the backyard sometime. What is it? I told him, oh, I know what you're talking about. I'm going to bring it for you. Next day I cook and I give it to him. He was crazy. He was like, oh my God, I never had this kind of kebabs. Even over here, I cook 2 times for my coworkers in applied materials. And I invited all of them in the house. And it was like this kind of table full of different foods. Probably I can show you the pictures later. And at the beginning they came, they were taking 1 spoon from each of big plates. And my wife told me, like, hey, they're not eating that much. I think we're going to have all of them as a leftover. I told my wife, be patient. I know Americans. As soon as they went and they sat and they ate, they like it. Then I asked them, like, guys, I know you guys like it. Come on in. You can fill it up 2nd time, 3rd time, 4th time. And then you won't believe 1 small rice didn't left at home. They ate, and some of them even they did the to-go thing. I had to go boxes available for them because I knew, like, they're gonna take it.
They loved it.
Yeah.
I want to try some now.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had Afghani food before. I don't think I have.
Yeah, I will ask my wife, like, maybe we can have a lunch or dinner together inside the apartment right now. So I live in Frugalville, so I will be in contact with you guys.
We'd
I
love
will
that.
invite you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We'd love to.
Yeah, so it's gonna be 3 of us, and you can also invite your father
Okay.
because he was the reason we got introduced to each other.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier you're working on a 2nd book. You want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, so this book is about an Afghan man, so Afghan translator who became who worked with Americans and moved to America. This time the book I'm working on is about an Afghan girl. So probably I'm gonna title it Afghan Girl, a Hero or Zero, because as I said, in Afghanistan people believe, like, girls, they cannot go to school, they cannot study, they cannot become an engineer, they cannot become a president. But I'm against that. I can say, like, girls, they have everything than like boys. The only difference is gender. The rest, they're the same. They can do whatever they want. But the story is going to talk about an Afghan girl who was born in a family that family never wanted to have a girl. They wanted to have a son. But she was born as a girl. and she struggled. She never received the love from her father. She never received like the love from her parents, and she was always used as a toy. Some people try to abuse her, and that's how she grew up. But the girl always wanted to be a doctor because she wanted to serve the people. She wanted to serve her family, and she wants to make her father proud. Like, hey, there's no difference between a girl and a boy. Both of them can be. And then the girls go to medical college, and she falls in love with an Afghan girl, Afghan boy, and the Afghan boy is from different ethnicity or tribe in Afghanistan, and the girls from different. That's why they cannot get married. That's kind of culture in Afghanistan sometimes, like they don't allow different tribes to get married with each other. And then they run away, and then Taliban is gonna caught them, and the ending is gonna be TBD. I'm not gonna talk.
That's awesome.
That sounds like an exciting book. When do you expect you'll publish that one?
End of the year.
End of this year?
Yes,
Okay.
end of the year. So this time I want this book to be like at least 300 pages.
Okay.
Yes.
How exciting. You have lived quite an incredible life and continue to do so. It's just amazing.
Yeah, so as I said, like I'm trying to just chase American dream. The American dream that I had a dream since the beginning. I'm just chasing that. I'm just trying to use every opportunity, because when I remember when I was on the plane, when the airplane was trying to land in Austin, I was looking at the window and I was telling myself, like, here I come. I came here to change something. I didn't came here to waste my time, to have fun. I can go have fun every day. There's a lot of fun places in Austin, but I don't want to have fun every day. I want to have fun when I want to celebrate something.
What a great perspective. I wish more Americans would share that. If you could give a message broadly to Americans, what would it be?
Just be a true American. Just appreciate your country. Every opportunity this country provided for you, just appreciate that. Just work hard. Use everything this country gave it to you. The world is not like America. I cannot blame also American, to be honest. Like when I see Americans, they complain about their life in America. I cannot blame them also, because they have never seen the other side of the world. So what they did, they went for vacation to Las Vegas. They went to vacation to Canada. They went to vacation to Germany. They need to have a vacation to other countries like India, like Pakistan, like Afghanistan if it was safe. They need to go there and see how people are suffering. As soon as they go there and they come back, they're going to kiss America's soil. They're going to say, oh my God, I didn't know how great you were. Over here, people don't worry about anything. They don't worry about like, oh, I don't have money, what should I eat? Over here, like when your children is asking you like, hey, Dad, I need this toy, you can buy it because you can afford it. You work. But over there, you cannot afford even food. Your children, they cry for food and you cannot afford a food. Sometimes I just don't want to forget my like personality. I watch like YouTube videos from Afghanistan. Sometimes when I send my brother money, like he'll help this family, like food. So I send him like $100 and I ask him like buy a bag of rice, a bag of beans, a bag of peas, sugar, salt, oil, like all these things. Just buy it. Don't give them money. Buy. He buys all of them and he goes and he delivers to their house. And I ask him, take a short video as well. So my brother records a short video that how happy that family is when they receive that thing, and he sends to me. Sometimes I don't want to be like Americans, forget about the other side of the world. I watch those videos. I just try to remember myself. Who was I? I just want to that's the reason. Like Americans should value this country. The lazy people should get out from this country. This country is not for lazy people. This country is for hardworking people.
Couldn't agree more.
I wish that was taught in schools nowadays.
You know, one time I was driving Uber, one of my riders, she was like complaining about her life. I asked her like, hey, why? She told me like, I'm working 40 hours a week. I only have 2 days to live, which is weekends. It's not my life. I'm tired of this country. I told her like, look, ma'am, you're the luckiest person in the world that you work 40 hours a week and you're having 2 days to enjoy. I am working 40 hours a week just on my regular job, Plus, I'm working like 20 hours, 25 hours a week doing Uber, and I'm still not complaining. I'm still happy.
I don't think there'd be much that could happen to you that'd make you complain.
Yeah, so like I don't know why these people complain. What is the point? Like,
It's a cultural issue. It's the public school system and the things that we've been taught from a very young age
Yes.
to complain and not work hard. And unfortunately, we've had it so easy that people have been conditioned that way. It's a cultural problem.
yes, that's why like I told my wife like once my daughter is like a little bit older, like 5 years old or 4 years old, as soon as she can talk and she understands what I say, I told my wife like I'm not gonna buy anything for her like every day. Like whenever we go to Walmart and she points at toy like, hey, I want to buy that one, daddy, buy for me. I told my wife like, I'm not gonna buy. If she cries all day, all night, let her cry. Because if I buy it for her that day, she's not gonna value that thing. She's gonna break that thing and trash it because she knows like I will buy her again another one. So she's not gonna appreciate what she has. She has to wait. For example, if she wants me a toy, like, hey, can you buy me a toy? I will see, okay, what occasion is in the future. For example, Easter, for example, Christmas, New Year, what is it? If it's, for example, if it's New Year, I will tell my daughter, okay, 1 month from today is New Year. I'm gonna buy you that toy on New Year, okay? And she has to wait. Because once she start counting days, like, okay, 20 days left to New Year, 19 days left to New Year, once she have that toy, she's gonna appreciate. She's gonna take care of that toy. She's not gonna break it. She's not gonna trash it because she says like I waited. She will think, okay, I waited for this toy a month to get it. And that's why like I ask my wife like once my daughter is older, like 10 years old, 12, 15, so something like that, I want you and my daughter travel to Afghanistan, to India, to Pakistan, to Tajikistan, all those Middle East countries. Go there, spend a month. It's okay. Whatever we spend, I'm gonna pay for it. Just go there, spend, because she needs to see the other side of the world. She needs to see she needs to see like how kids on her age are suffering. Like on her age, like kids, they sell bags and they feed their family. But over here, they don't have any idea.
Not a clue.
They have credit card from their father and they're spending every day.
Wow. Such a great perspective you have.
Yeah, I want to share one more story from like Uber
Please do.
about the same topic. One night I received a ride and there was a man's name on the application. I thought a man is gonna sit in the car. So when I went there, a lady came over and she sat in the car. I told her, oh, I was expecting a man. She said, oh, my father requested this ride for me. And when I look at the destination, she was going downtown to one of the bars. I told her, okay, you're going to have fun? She told me like, no, I'm going to work. I said, oh, okay. She told me, my father is a millionaire, but he's forcing me to work as a bartender. I said, okay, then what is the point? She said like, he cannot give it to me anything. He's not giving me anything easily. I wanted to buy a car, so he asked me go work. I'm gonna pay 50% of the car. You pay 50% of the car. Once you prepare that 50%, I'm gonna pay the 50%. So that's why he's like buying me. He's giving me a ride through Uber to the bar, and I asked her, okay, what's gonna happen at 3 a.m. once you're gonna want to come back? He said my father put a timer, an alarm on his phone. He's gonna wake up at 3 a.m. and he's gonna request another Uber for me. I told the lady, your father is very smart. You have to, once you go home back tomorrow morning, hug your father and tell him thank you. He asked me like, why? I told her like, your father is teaching you a lesson. Who wants to wake up at 3 a.m. and request a ride? If he didn't care about you, he wouldn't do that. He's waking up at midnight, 3 a.m, just to request an Uber for you, just to teach you a lesson like, hey, I have money, but it's mine. I'm going to give it to you when you deserve. So right now you don't deserve it. If he gives it to you, you're going to spend all of it.
It's a father who cares.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she was like, she was convinced at the end. She was convinced like, yes, you're right. I never thought about this. I thought like my father is jealous. My father is doesn't selfish.
So much of life is a matter of perspective, and your perspective is incredible and very realistic. You know, 1 + 1 is 2 in this world.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, our generation is kind of notorious for being completely consumed by victim culture
Yes.
when they haven't really even experienced anything to be considered a victim. But
That's why, like, it always pisses me off when I see American complaints. It pisses me off. Like, oh, wow, why?
I can't even imagine.
We really have nothing to complain about.
Yes.
Wow. What a compelling story and perspective you have. What have we missed? What other fun stories are out there? What else would you like to talk about?
If I keep talking, maybe there's a lot, but I don't remember exactly. But I just want to say, like, try to use every moment from this country. If you're good on something, just use that. If you're good on social media, try to be a social media influencer. If you're good something on writing, keep writing books. Don't worry if someone's gonna buy it or someone's gonna read it. Eventually, if it's good, if one day someone is gonna read it, someday it's gonna get viral. Just be patient. Just don't let people to make you down. There's a lot of people that they always say like, oh, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. Don't listen to them. When people say you cannot do that, consider like, okay, you can do that. That's why they're jealous. You do it. Prove it. Prove that they're wrong. That's why I always try to avoid those kind of things. Like when I self-published a book, I wanted to do marketing. So what I did, I printed a board and I cut a couple copies of book. I went to Congress Avenue and I put my small desk with a poster and a couple of books, and I wanted to reach out to people. Some people started crossing by. They were just looking on my board, didn't care. And then I started okay, I need to start asking people. And some people crossed and I asked them hey, are you interested in my book? They said, oh no, thank you. Then some of them oh no, I'm good. As soon as I heard these things, I stopped. I packed everything and I went home. I told my wife no, this kind of thing is going to discourage me. Because these people, if they said I don't care, my mind is going to say oh, people don't care about your books, don't write anymore. I said I just put it over there. I'm going to do some social media marketings. I will just use Uber, just some kind of things. But maybe one day people are going to read it. If not, I should start writing my second book. That's why I started writing it. I barely check how many copies I sell. I check once a week, twice a week, once in 2 weeks, how many copies it's going well or not.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you're having success with it, and I'll do everything I can to ensure that you continue to have success with it. And you'll have to let us know when the next book comes out, and we'll have to have you back on, and we'll talk about that book in more detail, and I'll post about it for you and do whatever I can to help.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. Your accomplishments and life story are incredible, and I know that your accomplishments have only begun here in America. So
Thank you.
Thank you for being such a leader, shining example of what American is supposed to be.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story with others. This is a great opportunity, and that's the reason I posted those posters behind the car, because one is to reach out to people, one is reach out to those people who can help me. I face his father. So his father said he's gonna read the book, but he's definitely gonna recommend me to his son. So I never lost my hope. I said okay, eventually there's gonna be someone. I still have those notes in behind the car, and tomorrow night I'm back on the road. I'll just keep driving and just hoping for the right person to come and help me, because there's a lot of people in the world as well, in America as well, they want to help you.
Yep.
You just need to start. For example, when I went to MBA, my loan officer told me the cost of MBA is $75,000. I was oh my God, that's a lot of money. And she told me you need to pay it back as soon as you graduate. Once you graduate, you have 6 months. After 6 months, you need to pay back. The interest was 7 point something, because the graduate degree was expensive on that time and the St. Edward's was expensive. I told her I'll do it. She asked me, because we had a little background conversation before talking about these things. She asked me you're not scared to paying it back? because your family is not here, you don't have any supporter, your father is not here. I told her, like, I don't care about paying it back right now. I just want to get that degree first. I just want to study first, learn. Once I graduate, then I will think about paying it back. I believe, like, once I graduate, I'm going to have a good job. And see, I graduated. Now I'm a senior technical project manager. The company is paying my student loan.
Wow.
They're doing monthly payment toward my student loan extra.
That's awesome.
See, like, I didn't care. Don't be scared. Like, people should not be scared about doing something. Like, just do it. People buy $75,000 a car that they drive for 2-3 years, trash.
Mm-hmm.
Degree is gonna last for years. I saw some people in America, like, they were like, oh, I don't want to do my degree, my MBA, my bachelor's degree because it's so expensive. No, it's not expensive. You don't know, like, you're gonna use that degree until you die. But you're willing to buy a car $50,000.
It's so funny how backwards we've gotten in America with how we look at things. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, like, so there's a lot of things in America I'm not agree with. Like, one of them is the freedom. So one time a friend of mine, he was using a drug because he was in war in Afghanistan. He was a combat translator. He had PTSD. So I don't know, somehow he used a drug. And one night his wife called me and he asked for help. Like, hey, can you come? Your friend is behaving like not normal. I started driving fast to help her because his wife was scared. When I went there and I started talking with the guy, I noticed, like, he had a drug and he's not like behaving properly. So I didn't know what to do. I convinced him, like, let's go to the doctor. He didn't listen to me. Then I convinced him to go sleep. So he didn't listen to me. Then I went outside of the home and I called the cops because I needed help. I needed help from them to force him to go to the doctor because he needed a medical attention. I didn't know one thing. So when the cops came over, I was standing over there and they asked me, did you call us? I said yes. And they asked me, what's the problem? I told them, like, hey, my friend, he has a PTSD and he did a drug. He's not an addict, but he did a drug. Now he needs an attention. Can you please help him? The cop told me, oh, it's his freedom. He did whatever he want. He did it. And if he's under influence of any drug or alcohol, we cannot help him. I was like, okay, but maybe he can kill himself. The cop told me, we can go and request him, like, hey, let's go to the doctor. If he says no, we cannot force him. I told the cop, like, what kind of freedom is it? This is not freedom. You guys need to force him because he's in the wrong way. So you have to force him, like, hey, let's go to doctor because he's misbehaving. The cop told me, I agree with you. That's not a freedom, but this is what it is. Then I told the cops, no, thank you. Just go. Mm-hmm. If you go right now, request him, he's going to disconnect his relationship with me. And my friend is not going to listen to me again because he's going to say, oh, you brought cops on me. I asked the cops, just leave. They left. And next day, fortunately, my friend, he was awake and I had a deep conversation with him. And he went to the doctor and he stopped using it.
That's great.
No, that's good.
Go ahead. So you've been a positive influence on so many people and continue to be. I'm so thankful that we've had the opportunity to talk with you and listen to your story. It's been incredible.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it, guys. I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, which is great. We can keep going. I mean, is there anything we missed? Is there anything else that we want to talk about?
No, I posted some pictures also on the book just to let people, like, whatever I talk on this book, whatever achievements I had, is not just talk. Mm-hmm. It's like with proof. For example, I posted my picture with holding my degree from St. Edward's.
Wow.
So to just show people, like, I did it. And I had some picture from, like, when I was working as a translator. Oh yeah. So this is my last day at Dubai International Airport when I was hoping, like, I'm gonna have a great life in America, but I didn't know, like, I'm gonna face all the challenges I talk about. I didn't know, like, I'm gonna face all those challenges. So it was in Dubai. this is the time like I felt like I'm secure. Like nobody is gonna hurt me. I'm not anymore a traitor. No one is gonna call me a traitor. So this was in Dubai, and I have a picture from like inside the base. This is how I was walking inside the base, covering my face.
Wow.
Wow.
Like we were covering our face because even inside the base we were not safe. As I said, there were some soldiers. They were not Taliban, but they had that kind of ideology. Like these Americans are not here to help us. These Americans here to convert us to different religion. So that's why we need to cover our face. And mostly when I was going out of the base, when some people were asking me questions, like, what is your job inside the base? I was telling them I'm a soldier. I was not telling them like I'm a translator.
Smart move. Well, your book, Afghan Translator, a hero or a traitor, absolutely a hero.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm not calling myself a hero, but I'm definitely not a traitor.
You are absolutely not a traitor.
Thank you.
That is for sure.
Definitely a hero. Yeah, Afghan Translator, a hero or a traitor. Please order that on Amazon. We'll put a link up for it so everyone can find it easily. Any social media that you have that you'd like people to follow you on?
Yes, I'm on everywhere. I have a website as well. So it's under my name, BezhanAminy.com.
Okay, will you spell that, please?
BEZHAN and AMINY.
And is it the same on social? Is it just at your name? Okay.
Yeah, social media, same thing. Like Instagram, TikTok, like Facebook, everywhere.
Awesome.
But I usually like market about my book on my Instagram and TikTok, not Facebook, because I have a lot of friends from Afghanistan. I don't want just people know about this kind of book because my family is still over there.
What just kind of last question for you. I meant to ask earlier, but when you make it to America, or do you feel 100% safe from the Taliban and any of those previous issues here? I mean, do you feel 100% safe, or is there still issues?
No, I'm in America. I'm safe. So
Okay.
over here, nothing is against me. Even like Americans, they're very friendly with me. Like in America, since I'm doing Uber, it's like I didn't face anyone who insulted me, except like 2-3 times. Like some people like insulted me because where I'm from, and I asked them get out from the car. I pulled over and I kicked them out. But mostly people were very friendly, were very helpful. But in Afghanistan, yes, I cannot go back to Afghanistan right now because I'm holding a United States passport right now. I'm a U.S. citizen. So if I go, it's going to be trouble. They will think, okay, the guy came. In the past, so some people, they believe like I am a traitor. Some people, they doubted I am a traitor. But now those doubts are 100% changed to belief. Why? Because I came to America. So now they will say, if he wasn't a traitor, why he moved to America?
I see.
So that's why like now those doubts also changed to belief. So that's why I cannot go to Afghanistan. In the past 7 years, I couldn't go to Afghanistan and I didn't see my family. And they stuck over there. I stuck over here. I don't know what's going to happen, when we're going to see each other again.
Man, well, you just continue to stay so positive through everything. And I mean, this entire time, you basically had a smile on your face. And it's just so refreshing to sit down and talk with you and hear your perspective. And so I can't thank you enough for coming on. And we'll definitely have to do this again sometime.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.